tried calling him?
Yes.
Why won't he
I
answer?
don't know. He won't answer. She's got him in Buffalo too. I don't know what she told him.
Hello, Spirit Siblings, and welcome to Outer Darkness. We are going to talk about Charles Vallow. Specifically, we are going to talk about the interactions between Charles Vallow and the Gilbert Police, as well as the interactions between Lori, Melanie, and Tylee and the Gilbert Police. This is the first of a few deep dives, so there will be some longer videos coming up because I want to go back through and really go into like the text messages, documents, testimonies, interviews for this misfit band of characters, dumbasses. It'll be interesting to review them because we know so much more than we knew in the beginning. In fact, I was going through some of my old videos while I was editing this. I noticed that there are quite a few that I could probably update, re-upload, or at least fix the fucking sound on. So all of this is to kind of wrap everything up in a tight little cult bow. But aside from that, I will be uploading some different topics. I had several planned prior to what happened last August. I recently found some old notes that I had, and so I'm excited to work on those. And there are some really interesting cases I want to talk about aside from the Daybell case, and also some interesting events in Mormon history that will add to the understanding of the Daybell case. Full transparency, I know that there are many great officers out there, and they work really hard, and they don't deserve the criticism of their shittier peers. However, the Gilbert Police Department, they done fucked up. In my opinion, they failed to do their duty that they're sworn to do. According to the information I have gone over, the legislation, different sources regarding Arizona law, I believe they actually broke the law by not serving the involuntary evaluation of Lori Daybell. Yeah, I know. It was reported as voluntary, but it was not voluntary, and I'm going to read to you several different documents. I also am going to review the Gilbert Police Report, or some of the Gilbert Police Report. Honestly, this could be just a case of ignorance. They may not have even known what their duties were, but it's clear to me that they failed. Would it have changed the outcome? Probably not, but we'll never know. Even if it wouldn't have changed the outcome, the fact of the matter is they done fucked up. This kind of thing happens all the time, a lot more than you would think. Victims get criminalized, they get treated like shit, and it's a problem throughout, I think, a lot of police departments. So my hope with this is not to just beat up on the Gilbert Police Department. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is point out these failures and why they are such a big deal. So I'm going to warn you now that I'm going to be very critical of the officers and sergeants involved. I'm going to be pretty snarky. For some of you, it's going to seem like I'm disrespectful, but I believe they disrespected Charles and the children, and so I don't care. Supporting the police and recognizing flaws and wanting to talk about the flaws in the institution are not mutually exclusive. You can support police officers and have respect for them, which I do. I know that not all police officers are shitbags. But you can also say this institution has serious issues and they need to be talked about, and officers need to be held accountable. Just because someone is a police officer and holds a badge does not mean they deserve that badge. I truly believe that if the police had taken Charles seriously, if members of the corporation had taken Charles seriously, or realized, that's interesting, Lori thinks her husband is shorter because he has a demon inside and she won't stop talking about this demon or this zombie. Maybe she's gone a little off track. I've been very vocal about the people surrounding Lori. People may think I'm harsh or that it's not fair, and to that I say, I don't fucking care. And the reason I don't care is because each and every one of these people knew what was going on. They were, according to what I know, completely sane. So we're going to start off with the body cam footage from around midnight on January 31st, 2019. This is the initial call It's actually the second call that was made to Gilbert Police, but the initial call that was dispatched when the officers arrived at the Vallow residence and spoke to Charles about the involuntary order for evaluation.
So what's going on tonight?
I can't get in touch with my kids.
How old are your kids?
6.5 and 16. Okay.
How long have you been trying?
2 days.
Okay.
She's lost her mind. I don't know how to say it. We're LDS. She thinks she's a resurrected being and a God and member of the 144,000. Jesus is coming next year.
The 144,000 are a little different in Mormonism than they are in traditional Christianity, and I'm going to talk about them more when I do a commentary on Zulema's testimony. I'm sure it's in some of those other douchebags' testimonies, but I just remember it specifically being in hers. So I'll explain it a little more in that video, which is coming up. It's going to be one of the next videos that I do. I also did a video on the 144,000. I included it in my Visions of Glory series where I read the book and then commentated on it. So you can go back and watch that. I'll give you a quick little crash course. They are considered, the 144,000, to be leaders of the 12 tribes. I know they are in the Bible. I do. I get a lot of comments every time I talk about them of who the 144,000 are. The thing is that is not the way that Joseph Smith described them. So we're going to go off of that, since that is the religion that Chad and Lori practiced. So the 144,000, according to Joseph Smith, are priests and priestesses. I think he actually just said priests, and then Bruce McConkie added priestesses, equality. They are members of the Church of the Firstborn, which is mentioned several times throughout the Book of Mormon and the Doctrine and Covenants, which is where you can also find the information about the 144,000. A lot of more Orthodox Mormons talk about the 144,000. Mike Stroud, who I've talked about before, teaches on it, and this is what he has to say. There is in our day, and in the day to come, the formation of a rescue brigade. This rescue brigade to liberate and deliver the captive house of Israel throughout the nations of the world, and referred to in Scripture as the 144,000. These men and women called to this ministry have an assignment in a future day when hopelessness and despair, destruction and death rule the day, to go into these nations and through priesthood power and the gifts of the Spirit find these lost ones who have no hope of deliverance and bring them through miraculous ways, superseding time and space, and deliver them to places of safety and refuge set up by the Lord in His wisdom throughout the world. Many of them will be translated in the flesh as in ancient times, so as to be able to fulfill this mission successfully, to bring these redeemed of the Lord to Zion. So basically the gist is that they are going to save everyone's asses, apparently. They are 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes. That is how you qualify to be a member of the 144,000. You have to be ordained into the Church of the Firstborn. How does that happen? Well, you can be translated, resurrected. There are translated beings that walk among us, resurrected beings that walk among us. That is in the Book of Mormon as well. And the thing is these more Orthodox Mormons that are usually described as being offshoots, or I used to describe them as a subculture. I don't describe them that way anymore because they are following doctrines, old deep doctrines. So they are technically following the original teachings of the church. A lot of those people will teach about it and talk about it, and they cite the scriptures where their teachings come from. It's not like they just get up and say all this shit and don't link it back to anything. I don't know the depth of the personal relationship between Mike Stroud and Lori and Chud. I know he was preparing a people speaker and all of that. The way Lorhor, Chud, and this group of misfits interpret the 144,000 or believe in the 144,000 is that, I think, according to what I heard in Lori's testimony, when she talks about people already being called to their missions.
The time is now. The Lord is gathering His people. He is calling people to the 144,000. They're already being called. They're already being sent on their missions. They're already going full circle. The time is now. He is coming. He is preparing us. And we promised we would do it.
We just read about what Mike Stroud said, what Melanie said in that same testimony, which is that if you come to the conferences, you'll meet people who already know what their missions are. They're already members of the 144,000.
All His warriors are showing up.
Yes,
and I am connected to a lot of them. And as you come to the conferences, you will connect to what their missions are. Because there's people part of that 144,000 that know what's coming. And they've been shown it. They've shown their mission, how they're going to rescue and save people.
Oh, I almost forgot about Miss Fruity Fruit Cake Zulema Dilemma.
Melanie knows her mission. Lori obviously you shared your mission. And I've heard your mission, and this beautiful sister here now has shared her mission. So I'm just wondering, how many of you guys already know what your mission is for the second coming?
So it's out there. It's one of the reasons why I believe that this shit is a present day thing and not a future day thing. I'll probably address that more or talk about it more in the future. You would be eligible to lead the 144,000. The eligibility would depend on if you were able to be exalted. There's this ceremony that most members of the organization don't know about, or they just deny, where special people, i.e. rich people, people with influence, some not like that though. This second anointing ceremony is reserved for special couples, invite only. The second anointing solidifies your place in the celestial kingdom. You've already been so amazing and so perfect and so righteous on earth that you already won your spot. If you were, hypothetically, now I'm not saying this happened, but let's say that you somehow were given the second anointing on earth and you already had delusions of grandeur. You believe you're a member of the 144,000 and you've gone through possibly, maybe, probably not, but could have gone through this second anointing ceremony of some type. Maybe not sanctioned, we don't know. But you could see how a person could connect the two if they had taken part in a ceremony like this, why they would start saying all these things, because they do all coincide and relate to each other. Another thing that I thought about when I was listening to Charles talk about all the crazy shit Lori is doing is he talks about her believing she's a god, and then there's also a lot in, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that my ears perked initially in this case when I heard translated being. I have a video on that too that fully explains what a translated being is and the difference between a translated being and a god. And I almost wonder, because it was like they were translated beings and then they were gods and goddesses, I wonder if someone was like, oh shit, translated being, they're like terrestrial. We gotta be celestial to do all this shit and ordain people and have our own planet. We've got to be exalted, full on gods and goddesses to have these powers and the patriarchal priesthood and all of this. I also have a video that explains second anointing, and so you can go back and watch that. That talks more about this Church of the Firstborn. Actually, I think I have one on Church of the Firstborn. Just go watch them all. A lot of these videos just, they overlap, and so to get the full picture, you may want to go back and watch the ones where you've seen the buzzwords. Church of the Firstborn, priesthood, 144,000. Like I said, that's part of the Visions of Glory kind of series. Kathy with Left Undone was, as far as I know, the first person that mentioned that this book seemed to be awfully similar to what Chad and Lori were saying, and it was Lori's favorite book. Difficult Research has talked about it. She's actually been talking about it a lot lately. I just basically read it and made fun of it.
I went to the CSI file a report, which is the community bridges or something. File a report.
So you did the petition?
Yeah, they ordered pickup.
Okay. What time did you do that?
Hour and a half ago.
Okay.
Fucking bingo. When that footage came out, or when they were talking about that footage, and they kept saying voluntary order. Well, here's the thing. When you are voluntarily referred, the police don't show up. They typically only show up when it is not voluntary. I don't know why it irritated me so much that all of the media reports were saying that it was a voluntary mental health order, because to me it clearly wasn't. And I knew that before I even went and researched it and was like, I'm pretty sure that's not voluntary. Let me double check on that. I think anyone that has worked in mental health, especially someone that has worked in a hospital, would figure out the same thing. But at any rate, I'm going to read you what a voluntary admission is. So this is Arizona law 36-518. So if you want to see it for yourself, just go to the Arizona legislature website and you can read it. I'm going to read the key parts of the definition. You can see it in front of you and read the whole thing yourself. Any person who is 18 years of age or older and who manifests the capacity to give and gives informed consent may be hospitalized for evaluation, care, and treatment by voluntarily applying in writing on a prescribed form. So what it's saying is that the actual person that's going to be receiving care gives consent and is able to give consent. The admitting officer will decide if they need evaluation or treatment and then admit them based on their decision or their insurance. Probably the latter. You might disagree and say, no, it was voluntary. And honestly, we would know for sure if Gilbert hadn't oopsie-daisy lost the order. You know how that happens. You just fucking misplace stuff in the circular file bin. How? Are they in the Stone Age and they don't have I'm pretty sure they have an electronic system and, you just upload. Maybe not. I know he was holding paper copies, the sergeant, when he talked to Charles at the hotel, and they were holding paper copies when they were dispatched originally. So maybe they have to file them remember those big file drawers? Kind of like a Dewey Decimal System. Do they even have a Dewey Decimal System anymore? Anyway, what I'm saying is if Gilbert hadn't oopsie-daisy lost the report or the order. See, here's the other thing that I'm going to mention while I'm thinking about it. In the Chandler docs, when we go over them, it will say they checked with Community Bridges and there were no records. Now, it does say that in 6 months, if a person has an order and if in 6 months that order isn't acted on, the records will be destroyed. Based on what I know as far as records retention requirements, after she was admitted for evaluation, she became somewhat of a patient, I would think. In any rate, I find it suspicious that the records were destroyed. Gilbert most likely would have had to show some sort of authority in order to get that patient information because of confidentiality policies and laws. So I just don't see them being able to call and being told, oh yeah, she came in, she passed with flying fucking colors too. Yeah, I doubt that. What I read is that patient records cannot be released without the permission of the patient. And that's generally the practice that I have experienced. I believe there's also a records retention requirement with HIPAA.
So what makes her a danger to herself and to others?
Threatened me, murder me, kill me.
She threatened to murder you?
Yeah, and she said,
how did she do that?
My bishop right there is in the car. He was on the phone with me today when she said, I will have you destroyed, is what she said there.
Okay, that's not a threat to kill you.
Yesterday was a threat to kill me.
Okay. What did she say yesterday?
She said, you're not Charles. I don't know who you are, what you did with Charles, but I can murder you now with my powers.
I believe Lori is talking about her spiritual gifts that she happened to be developing. There were a lot of conversations surrounding gifts of the spirit or spiritual gifts. I have a video on that. In that video, I break down what the gifts are as they are described in the Book of Mormon. Murder is not one of them, at least not that I read. Maybe I accidentally skipped over it, just like Lori skipped over the whole thou shalt not kill thing.
Okay. All right. Says I'm gonna kill you too. Yesterday was.
So she's speaking as a spiritual being.
She's not here.
Okay.
She's lost her reality.
Is this just all recent, or has it been going on?
It's been going on for about 4 or 5 years. It's gotten really, really bad lately. She goes to the temple every day and speaks with Moroni and Jesus Christ, and they tell her what to do. And now she came to her today, and last couple of days she says, I'm not Charles. You're not Charles. You're Nick Schneider.
Chad just Googled him. He just went on Family Search and found that name and was like, that's who he is. If you don't know what Family Search is, it is basically a genealogy website. It's like Ancestry amped up because it actually tells you what ancestors have been baptized, if they've had temple ordinances done for them, if they've been sealed. If they haven't, you can go be baptized or sealed for them, which is what Lori talks about in her testimony clear back in 2018. She talks about Charles' family members coming to her in the temple.
Where she gets his names from. She had all this stuff with these people in Utah who tell her how many past lives she's had and probation she's had.
God, we have some real fucking weirdos in this state. But it's interesting that Charles says people in Utah are teaching her about past lives, not people in Idaho. Because what? What was that? Oh, yeah, Chad's just not that fucking interesting. He's not talented enough to come up with this shit. Joseph Smith was.
She's was married to Moroni way back when, and she was also married to James the Just.
Is it just me, or does it feel like there was some sort of threesome?
Yeah, this is all foreign to me. So
It's foreign to me.
Well, I'm not LDS.
It's crazy stuff.
I know you're using LDS terms here.
I know, but it's just she's nonsensical. I want to do this now. You've got a pickup order. Am I correct?
We do.
Okay. If she doesn't answer, what do we do?
If she doesn't answer, we can't enforce the order.
That's not exactly true. There's one section of law that I read that talks about needing to preserve property and not, fuck it up when you're apprehending someone. They can still serve the order. It's still good. 36503.02, apprehension and transportation by authorized transporters. A mental health treatment agency is allowed to authorize, request, or order the apprehension and transportation of a patient or proposed patient by a police officer to an evaluation agency or mental health treatment agency. So the evaluation agency, in this case, sent an order, a pickup order, which is also defined in the legislation. They probably wouldn't be able to serve the order at that particular time, but it doesn't mean they can't serve the order. However, Charles also says that he's worried about the children. He's worried about their safety. He doesn't know what she's going to do with them. He has no idea. He hopes they're okay. He clearly mentions his concerns for the children. At that point, I think kicking in the fucking door is okay. There are minors involved. This isn't just about her. This is about the safety of children. And I'll harp on that throughout this entire video. So if you don't want to hear it, I don't know what else to tell you. That part to me is one of the biggest failures in this entire thing. They forgot about the children. Why did they concentrated so much on not believing Charles or doubting his story or the fucking purse when, by the way, $35,000 and a truck missing, little more than a fucking purse. But they skip over all of that. And when they're talking to him, they skip over that. In the interview, they skip over that.
Can I break into my house?
Do you live here?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
My lease. I pay the lease.
Do you guys have any orders of protections against you?
No, we do not.
So, no police reports?
No, nothing.
Okay. So how does she pose a threat to your children?
I don't know what she's going to do with them. I don't know if she's going to flee with them. She's going to hurt them. I just want to see my boys okay, and she's got a pickup order. I need to go. She needs to go.
So let me ask you this. When you came back, why didn't you just go to the home?
Because she told me not to come near it. All my stuff is gone.
Okay.
I'm not stupid. She could have done anything.
Okay.
I thought this would be the best way to do it. With what she's gone through and what Gabe witnessed with me on the phone today, I thought it was best to have her. She's psychologically, she's gone. Something's happened to her.
How old is she?
45.
45. So if we talk to her, is she going to be able to have a rational conversation with us?
Oh, she will. I'm sure she will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something that I think Lori was a mastermind of is she, of course, could put on that mask and then she put the fembot together with that. People can have rational conversations and be completely in need of being in the hospital. Part of some people's illnesses are that ability, the ability to manipulate, especially when someone wants to send them to the hospital. Yes, even though she appears as though she can have a rational conversation, she is saying a lot of weird shit and she is threatening violence. This is Arizona Code 36524. It says here the admitting officer may advise the peace officer that sufficient grounds exist to take the person into custody and to transport the person to the evaluation agency. Here is a very important word coming up. The peace officer, on the request of the admitting officer of the evaluation agency pursuant to this subsection, shall apprehend and transport the person to the evaluation agency. Doesn't say may. That is a very, very big thing. I wrote a bill as an undergrad, and in that bill, I had that line. I had the judge shall order. Because I had shall in there, I had a legislator say he was uncomfortable with that because when you say shall, that is the law. You have to. That's a requirement. So if it had said the peace officer may, that's a totally different meaning, totally different story. That means that he has discretion to decide to transport her. If a peace officer shall transport the person, that means that peace officer is required under the law. Shall is shall. Another thing to note is that it says based on a review of the written or telephonic application and conversation with the applicant, which was Charles, and peace officer. Those are the words that are very important when you are interpreting law. Now, I am not an attorney, and attorneys interpret law the way they want to. That's why we have a whole court system. The attorneys and the judges, and they all put their own spin and interpretation to fit whatever case they're making. But as far as legislation, writing legislation, that's what the law in Arizona says.
She'll probably tell me I'm crazy, huh? Is that what you suspect?
Probably. You're a dark spirit. I'm a dark spirit. Gabe's with me. He's our bishop. He's gonna be a dark spirit. Whatever that means. You're evil.
And you said this has been going on for like 4 years?
Well, it's to an extent, but it's gotten really bad the last several months. And I've been trying to ignore it because hoping it'll get better.
Is she on any medications?
No.
Oh.
She won't do medications.
Has she been to a doctor?
She won't go to the doctor because she's a translated being, and they would find out she's translated. She cannot be killed. She cannot die.
And that's what she thinks?
Yes.
Okay.
And
she's been telling you?
Yes, and Gabe too.
Okay.
He heard this, not just me.
When Gabe heard translated being, that's definitely weird shit. That's definitely weird shit. Because translated being is... Okay, just watch the video on it because I'm going to spend 10 minutes explaining it because Mormonism is fucking weird. So Gabe heard that. Charles says Gabe heard that. He somehow forgets to mention it on the call with the officer. Interesting.
I love her to death. This is kill the officer.
Well, I can understand.
Our 13th anniversary next month. We've done had a great marriage. All of a sudden, the last month, it just blew up.
Mm-hmm.
She just lost connection.
That's the part that really broke my heart. And that is actually the line, the reason why when people are like, oh, it's just about her and her fembot thing. And it's just all about this sex and money. And it is. It's about sex, money, and power. But it's also about the motivation behind that, which is religion. If you removed religion, it couldn't exist. This case couldn't exist without it. And anyone that's like, it could. Well, no, because you literally cannot go back in time and prevent the two dipshits from meeting each other and deciding that they had been together in a previous life. I could never discount what Charles says here. I could never write that off because of the pain in his voice and because of how he's explaining that. Even though she was always a little bit of a Fruit Loop, this has gotten so much worse. So that's why I've always been so adamant that this contains a component that she is very sick.
Has she made any statements about wanting to hurt the children or anything?
Today, she gave on the phone, come take the kids. I don't care what happens to them. Come take them.
Okay, but she didn't make a direct threat towards the kids.
No,
And then she said that she would murder you through a spiritual...
no, she said, I can murder you.
I can murder you.
And
she's talking in spirit.
I will kill you.
Spiritual.
No, she talks in physically. I will kill you because you're not Charles. And nobody will care.
Okay. So she at this point doesn't think you are her
She
husband?
thinks I'm Nick Schneider.
Who's Nick
I
Schneider?
have no idea. It's the name she used. I don't know where it came from.
Okay.
I just like, I'm as bewildered as you are. This is so foreign to me. Normal people, as far as I'm concerned, that, this happened, it just drives me, I don't know what to do. I need help, and she needs help. She needs help.
So, what's your first name again? Charles. Charles lives here with his wife and 2 children. Charles was away on business.
Nephew upstairs, his name is Zach. He's 19. He's our nephew. You can stay with us.
Have you tried to call him?
And he won't call me back either.
Why won't he call you back? Okay.
That's what I'm worried about. I hope they're okay, but I don't know. It's valid.
For the people in the back, that officer just looked at the order and said, it's valid. Just saying. Doesn't have to do that with voluntary order. This brochure is from Connections, Arizona, and these are the FAQs within that brochure. What happens once I complete a petition? If the petition is accepted by the provider, a pickup order is sent to police. Upon receipt of the pickup order, the police will go to the location of the proposed patient. Can I cancel the petition if I change my mind? No. Once the petition has been reviewed by the provider and accepted, a pickup order will be issued. The applicant cannot cancel the petition. Only the provider can retire a petition, which means neither can the fucking police. Anyway, how long is the petition good for? There is no expiration date of a petition. If you complete a petition on a family member or friend and the police have difficulty locating the patient for pickup, the petition is still valid until either the patient is picked up, brought in for evaluation, or the provider decides to retire the petition. Why do I hear that the petition can expire? Because the cops don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Oh no, it doesn't say that. Sorry, I don't have my readers on. In the scenario above, we are speaking about the legal document, and that the proposed patient had not been picked up by police and brought into the UPC. Once a patient is brought in involuntarily admitted to the UPC, the legal clock starts ticking. We generally have 24 hours to evaluate and make a determination. So that 24 hours does not start ticking until you arrive at the location. It says here in the statute that an evaluation can take up to 24 hours. The evaluator can determine sooner than that you do not need to be kept for the entire 24 hours. But then they wouldn't be able to bill insurance for that long. You know what I mean? Shucks. Most of what I have heard is that people generally are required to stay for 24 hours. But we're talking about Lori Dipshit Daybell. I believe the story as far as her being able to leave the evaluation center within a few hours, I don't think she went. So technically I don't believe it. But if she did go, I could see them releasing her after a few hours because she would know exactly how to answer the questions. She's not going to say, well, I think I'm a translated being. That's why I won't take some Seroquel, or, she was crushing up Xanax in Charles' smoothies. Someone should have just crushed up some Seroquel, knocked that bitch out. Why did nobody think about that? Because I think it's a crime. So, yeah. When you are a witness on the petition, what does that mean? Do I have to go to court? You will be expected to testify regarding the behaviors if you're a witness. Gabe, any response to that? Any thoughts on things you said to Charles and then backed away from? Just curious. I think her looks had a lot to do with it. I do. Just saying. I don't think if she were on the homely bus or if she were a different race that she would have been treated so well. So it also talks about the information that can be released. It says the UPC cannot give you any information. It's talking about the applicant. So they cannot give the applicant any information aside from the legal status of the petition. A little bit lower, it says, in order for staff to share information regarding a patient's treatment, the patient must sign a release of information. So that's why I don't necessarily believe that they did follow up with Community Bridges or did verify with Community Bridges that Lori had been evaluated. There are a couple statutes that specifically mention timelines that I'm going to go over because they apply later or they've applied earlier. The first is 36-520, and what it says is the screening agency has 48 hours to act on a petition, not officers. They have 48 hours of the filing of the application, excluding weekends and holidays, to act on. If it's not acted on within 48 hours, the reason should be reviewed. So when the officer on the phone says, well, I don't even know if it's valid, first of all, how could it not be valid? 48 hours is how long the agency has to act on it. Or they have to provide reasons why they haven't acted on it. It wouldn't have expired. So when he says, well, we don't even know if it's valid, it's like, no, you fucking know it's valid. You can't tell me that you did. Do you never check the system? He admits that he read the report from the night before. So are you telling me that it's not in the report from the night before? How did he miss that? He may not have it in front of him, but it's enough to remember he either doesn't know a damn thing about involuntary orders or he was lying. It's either incompetence or corruption. Hence the title of the thumbnail. She didn't fucking go. Cops told her how to get out of it in that interview. They literally instructed her how to get out of it. They could have instead done what they were supposed to, which is, hi, Lori, how are you? You want to take a ride in my car? We're going to go to a resort of some sort so we can figure out what the fuck is going on with you. That would have been the appropriate response. Gilbert dropped the fucking ball. The initial call at 4:30 on the 30th was Charles saying, hey, my wife's saying some crazy shit and threatening to kill me. What can I do about that? He talked to someone and they said Community Bridges. So when he finally got back into town, he went over there to get the order to file the petition. So they were dispatched on that petition shortly after midnight. So this is the next day. This is after Charles showed up at the school. And so he's talking to them here. Now, Charles got criticized a lot for taking the purse out of Lori's car. Here's what happened. And this is why I don't believe he should have been criticized. The man has been up for God knows how long. He's worried, sick. He knows that his wife is going to be dropping off his child. He didn't know where she was, but he knew she was going to be dropping JJ off. He also knew that there was an active order for an involuntary evaluation that the police were supposed to be carrying out. So his thought, I'm going to take her keys, call the police, which he did, and say, hey, she's at the school, you can come pick her up here. Once he takes that, he sees the hotel key. That's why he's at the hotel meeting with the officers there, because they didn't get to the school in time. I guess they were too busy at Dutch Brothers, if there's a Dutch Brothers in Arizona, at Starbucks, whatever. They were too busy there to get, I mean, they could have had that's a little bit unnecessary as far as criticism of these guys, but they didn't get to the school in time. That's why he ended up meeting them at the parking lot. So when this officer in this clip says, well, we're at a hotel. Well, no shit, Sherlock, because you guys couldn't get this school in time. And the female officer, when she's on the phone, says that's why Team 1 couldn't get in charge with her. So he knew why they were at the hotel parking lot.
Your LDS?
Yes.
She thinks she's married to Moroni in the past.
You think she's what?
We're married to Moroni at the top of the temple.
Angel,
Moroni.
LDS.
You don't even want to know this shit. It's crazy. Anyway, I don't have time to explain to you about Angel Moroni, aka Jason Mao, who I just picture in his costume on the weekends. Every Saturday, he's like, gotta put on my shield and shit, eat Cheetos, and then spread bullshit, talk about lawyering up.
And she knows when the second coming is happening next year, so does the prophet.
Okay.
He knows it, she knows about it. She meets with Moroni, Jesus Christ, face to face in the temple every day. I've tried to support her as much as I could, but it's gotten really, really bad lately. She's had a break. She says, I'm Nick Schneider. I've taken over Charles's body, and Charles has been killed. I'm going to kill you. You're going to be murdered today or tomorrow. I can do it. I'm not going to with my priesthood, with my power. She does priesthood blessings.
Basically, what Lori has decided at this point is that she has the patriarchal priesthood, which is the highest level of priesthood. It's not commonly known. So a lot of Mormons would say, no, it's Aaronic, Aaronic. I call it the Aaronic priesthood, but it's Aaronic priesthood and Melchizedek priesthood, and that's it. No, people in this circle of friends, they talk about patriarchal priesthood, and it is for exalted beings. And at the second anointing, it supposedly is given. I know. If you're not familiar with Mormonism, you're like taking notes right now going, I am more confused than I was before I watched this video. Imagine growing up in it and then having your doctrine change on you all the time.
So who's Nick Schneider? Okay.
That's who I'm supposed to do.
Okay. Right. Okay. So he's not at church.
I've got a 6-year-old with special needs.
Right. And he stays at school somewhere.
Right.
Okay.
For now. If she knows I'm here, she's going to go get it.
Okay. What car? What does she drive?
A black Infiniti QX80. I just never thought she would do anything like this, but she's just lost touch with me. I'm not me. She yells. She's unhinged. It's scared the crap out of me.
Okay. Now, I'm assuming you guys have phones. Is that an iPhone?
Yes.
Are you able to track to see where her phone is right now?
The
I hear iPhones.
The phone's with me.
Oh, your phone. Now, how did you get her phone?
Because it was in the car this morning when she pulled up to school. I took the keys out of her purse out so she couldn't leave. That's when I called you guys.
Okay.
Somehow she has a purse set of keys and left with my dog. And so I don't know where I saw this in her purse. So I think she's here. They were going to give me the key to the room. I was going to go, if you guys will come with me, see if she's in the room.
We can't just go in. If you're not allowed to go in, we can't either.
Why? I don't explain. Why can't they go in? He's just told her that he's worried about his 6-year-old. He's just explained all these things, which, by the way, if you look at her face, she really is the only officer, in my opinion, that listened to him. I don't know enough to say if that's normal, but that just seems weird that you can't go in it's basically a well chat.
We're waiting for right now. What we're doing is my sergeant wanted to get some information from you. I was about to call you, but then Gary said you were here. We are just going to wait a second. My sergeant, they're on their way, because we have a sergeant training. So they're going to be here. They have the paperwork. So if she is here, we knock on the door. She's here. That's why we need the paperwork in hand. Okay, so we can take her.
That's why we need the paperwork, so we can pick her up. We need paperwork so we can transport her where she fucking needs to be. Not voluntary.
I guess she had a second set of car keys and she was able to leave the school. That's why Team 1 wasn't able to get a hold of her. So we're not sure if she's here or not. He's thinking that he would be able to get in the room. And I said, that's up to you and that's up to the hotel. That's not what we do. So I told him that we're waiting for you with the paperwork. And That's what we've got going on right now. He thinks she's still staying here just for the reason is that he was able to grab that key out of her purse in the car at that school in Central area, wherever that school was. Yeah, I'll give you just what she's saying and the reason the 909 came out. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. We're gonna, you know what, how about we all meet back at the car? We are on the north side of that home 2, which is just west of this building. It's the building west. It's the other hotel. We'll all meet right there. We'll go. He wants a sidebar before we do it. Where did he go?
He went back in to find out whether or not they'll give him permission to enter into that room.
No, I don't want him going into that.
He's not going to the room.
Let's go back over to our cars. They'll be here in just a minute or two, and he wants we need to do a powwow.
Okay.
So.
Let me just, I'll meet you over there. I'm just going to tell him, because he's gone to the lobby. I just want him to know he needs to wait around here so we can find him.
The biggest thing, okay, so she wants to marry Moroni, which is great, fantastic, fine and dandy. That's not as bad as the UFO thing. Yeah, I'm going to go off.
Me too.
I think it's pretty clear in this clip that Charles is fucking exhausted. He's had to repeat this story multiple times, which that's exhausting in itself. If you've ever had to explain a situation to customer service multiple times or law enforcement, you know it gets exhausting to try and repeat that story over and over when they really should already have that information from the first time. You shouldn't have to repeat yourself 90 times. Why can these officers not look into a system? And don't tell me, oh, they don't know yet, because one time I thought that so I found a bone in my yard, and I didn't think about the fact that it could have been a dog, you know, that someone had buried. I just thought, oh my God, there's a bone. What if someone buried someone in my backyard? Because I watch way too much true crime. So when the officer came out, I asked him about some weird things. I was renting that house and there were just some weird things. And he showed me every single call that had been associated with that address. Oh, wallet theft here, this here, this here. So they have that in the system.
So I'm going to let you take over.
Hey, just to remind you, I have that tour at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock.
Because he wants to get the fuck out of here. Okay, I'm not saying this guy is Mormon, but he looks like he's humming "I Hope They Call Me on a Mission" in his head right now.
I hope they call me on a mission.
She's not in there for some reason. I checked out her. Maybe another hotel. I know that she would be picking up JJ at 3:45 today at the same school.
Okay.
So she will be there. I don't know how you want to do that or what you want to do.
So did they tell you she's not in there?
Correct.
Okay.
I found that by Florida. She may be. No telling where she's staying.
Okay.
There's a lot of gray area in these matters for us, so it's not real black and white like somebody commits a crime and we just arrest them. So
it's not a fucking gray area when you literally have an order. That's not a fucking gray area. What's the gray area? You literally have an order. I don't like him.
I know we just showed up and we kind of came into this last minute, so we're kind of getting the story second and third hand.
Okay, the whole last minute thing is bullshit. Last minute, called at 4:30 the previous day. You went out there at midnight. He called you earlier to try and get you to go to the school to pick her up. And then he's meeting you in a hotel parking lot. So how is it last minute? And you've also just been looped in on the phone. So you've been looped in. You can't tell me that an officer called you and was like, it'll be a surprise when you get here. And then he drove up and they're like, surprise! I did do a 2-minute check on LinkedIn for that sergeant. And it appears he was with the Gilbert Police Department, or has been with them, for about 20 years. He spent several years prior to this position as a detective. I know, right? It's like you are a detective and you can't read documents. He was in financial crimes, which makes it even more perplexing, because wouldn't he have to know all the complicated legal jargon shit? You would think. Maybe they gave him picture books. To be fair, I don't think this should matter, but I will mention that it appears as though he was brand new to that position as of January 2019. So maybe he wasn't familiar with that type of stuff. I mean, there's no excuse in my opinion. You can't excuse this level of either neglect or, I'm not saying they're corrupt. I'm just saying I don't understand it. I really don't. It's mind-boggling to me that these officers are either ensuring this order doesn't go into place, or they don't know they're making these mistakes. Which is worse? It's like, is it worse that they're dumbasses or that they're corrupt? Like, I don't know which is worse. I told you I was not going to go easy on them. I warned you. I said I was going to be snarky. I said I was going to say some shit. So I'm just saying, if I see the comments, they're like, you are so disrespectful, and blah, 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 da, 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 da. Yeah, I told you I would be.
You have to be real careful following her around.
I'm not doing that.
Well, we're at a hotel.
Cool.
That's because you guys are too busy playing Candy Crush to do your damn job. That's why you're at a hotel parking lot. Because you could have done it already. You had opportunities, and you were like, I need to get to this next level.
You know?
And then I saw this in her wallet, so I came to look at the store. I called the police over here. I'm not going to try. I'm not irrational or stupid or anything.
I didn't pressure at all.
I want her to get it out.
Yeah.
She's my wife. I love her to death. Something's going on.
Okay.
And if she wants me gone, fine. I'll do all that stuff. I just don't want her hurt.
Okay.
I just don't want her hurt. I don't want to hurt anybody else.
What led up to this? Is there any correspondence that you've had over the last couple of days with her?
Her religious stuff has gone way off the deep end.
Okay.
Just way off.
Yeah.
And it's if you don't agree with her, you're the opposite.
Okay.
So,
When did you last speak to her?
yesterday when she texted me and said, we're done, get out of here.
Okay. When was this paperwork filled out with community
Last
groups?
night.
Okay. So what about, so these are handwritten, so sometimes they're hard for us to read.
Can you read handwriting? You know, you could have like read it and then clarified it with him. Or you could have called the physician who had, according to law, already talked to someone when that order was sent to the police department to be carried out, because it was, what was it?
You got a pickup order, am I correct?
We do.
An order. 5 minutes tops.
What about your correspondence yesterday precipitated filling this out?
When she was on the phone with me about Bishop, I had him on the phone with me.
Okay.
She threatened me physically. She made threats about the kids. She doesn't kill her. The kids come get him out of there. We won't be here that much longer anyway. And I've got my God power to completely my rest anytime I want. It's just irrational stuff.
Okay. Is the 6-year-old the only child in common?
Yes. We adopted. That's what that meant.
I think your priority should be there right now.
Fuck that guy.
And then maybe if you don't feel comfortable with her state of mind, maybe figuring out a way to keep him safe, even if that means not being at
I'm going to go
school.
to my attorney's office, file paperwork for restraining order for my sister, his grandmother. Safe, someday safe there. Okay. For a few days, then I do my work, got some stuff to do in Houston, I'll come back a week. She can have the house, I don't care.
Well,
have whatever she wants. She took $35,000 if you got that money left for a while.
yeah, I want to give you a little advice though. So consult with your attorney, but you don't necessarily want to remove the child from the state for too long.
I'm not saying he's Mormon. I'm just saying this sounds an awful lot like Mormon-splaining, like priesthood-splaining. Not saying that's the case, because police officer-splaining is also very similar. Let me give you some advice.
Because here's the deal. Ultimately, there's two sides to the story, and a
It's
lot of
not
times.
going to be long. It'll be
I know. Hang on. A lot of times when we contact the other half of one of these things, they're totally rational.
I'll tell her
thoughts,
she's going. I'll tell her.
Yeah. You just want to be careful not to deny her access to her child.
So you just told him that he should pick up his son to keep him safe. And now you're saying, well, you got to be careful about taking him out of state. You shouldn't deny her access to her child. If she's saying she's married to fucking Moroni and giving priesthood blessings and saying she's going to kill him and I don't care what happens to the kids, I think maybe giving her a break is not a bad thing. I think maybe saying, you know what? Let's let you be the goddess you are over planet shit for brains, and then we'll put JJ in a safe place where he is secure, and you can work on you. You can work on yourself. You can color all those mandalas that you color when you're in the hospital. You can do that while you're taking a vacation at the spa or the resort.
Turns into a thing.
Too hard on him.
Okay.
Too hard on him. This is about him, not us. Okay?
Yeah, as a police department, we're definitely willing participants in helping out with situations like this, but
You're pretty bad then at participating. You suck. You really suck.
these aren't criminal arrest warrants. These are kind of a sticky situation, and we have to be careful how much effort and force we put into it.
I get that you're nervous about shooting someone with a mental illness, and that's commendable. But I also think you're full of shit trying to act like that's not a serious thing and like you know more than people that put that order in place, that a provider is not going to issue an order like that unless they believe that something is in danger. You as a police officer without any training, excuse me, I need to calm down, should not be giving input on something you know nothing about, in my opinion.
These mental health petitions, so
Thank you. I've got to get to the bank, see if I can stop those cashier checks here unless I get my money back.
okay,
I've got $200 on my ring.
okay,
Payroll is $8,000 Friday. I got to do it, so I can figure out something.
okay.
Thanks, guys.
If you see her, you can call us and we'll come out. But let's forego the.
If I go to the school,
Continued
she picks him up at
investigation,
3:45 today. It takes you guys 20 minutes to get there. She's in and out.
We'll let the North Unit. If she says as rational as you say, I think maybe you should get your son out of the school and prevent that from happening.
Okay, Sergeant full of shit. That doesn't solve the problem. It really won't solve the... Take the cotton out of your ears and pay attention.
I may do that, but that's the only place I know where she needs help.
Yeah.
She needs some serious help. I want her to get help. I'm worried about her.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll survive this, but she needs help.
Yeah.
So that's the only way I think we can find where she will be.
Well, we're not going to do a sting operation.
Well, we're not going to do a sting operation. How about a regular operation? Well, my voice got really high. How about just a regular, hey, we're going to go pick up a patient because, again, we have a responsibility to do so. How about that? You don't need a sting operation. He's giving you instructions because apparently you don't know how to do it yourself.
It's not a sting. I'm just going to say, I will call and say she should pick him up in a few minutes. So if they can get there, that'll be great.
Okay.
We'll let the guys know, swing shift guys know.
I will, man.
All right.
I really appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, so let's go over the report that this Sergeant full of shit filed. So this says, on the morning of January 31st, I was made aware of I'm going to say involuntary, pickup order from blank for a listed patient of Lori Vallow. Sergeant Gillis explained that Patrol Team 17 attempted to contact Lori at the address listed on the pickup order. Officers were met at their residence by her husband, Charles Vallow. Charles was the listed petitioner on the pickup order. So clearly involuntary. The phone call with the female officer talking about Team 1, she's talking about that morning at the school when he called and they didn't show up in time because they were busy playing Candy Crush. Charles explained to officers that Lori had been acting irrationally and changed the locks to the residence while he was out of town. Ultimately, Charles made entry into the residence with the assistance of Gilbert and discovered that Lori had moved out with their children. Later in the morning, Patrol Team 11 officers were dispatched to the Hyatt Hotel to meet Charles, as he had information that Lori was staying there, which he tells the officer he figured out she was staying there because he saw the room key in her purse. I responded to the scene as the supervisor of Team 11. Charles explained he found Lori at their child's school. He took her keys, phone, and wallet from her vehicle in an attempt to prevent her from leaving. He phoned the police about her location and asked she be picked up on the pickup order. Lori had extra keys to the car and was able to leave. Again, he was doing your fucking job for you. I think it's interesting that Lori had an extra set of keys. Almost as if, now this is just a theory, just how I feel, but almost as if someone maybe made a call and warned her that there was an order out, an involuntary order to pick her up, and that someone may show up that morning. Charles located a room key to the Hyatt Hotel and Lori's belongings, so he drove there and attempted to figure out where Lori was staying. We contacted him there. Yeah, because he probably had to call you guys again. While speaking to Charles, he expressed concern over some money that Lori had moved from his business account. After repeatedly mentioning his son and how he was special needs and he was worried, and fuck, this guy. In fact, as we spoke, he expressed a desire to leave quickly. You'd been talking for a while and he wasn't getting anywhere with you. You weren't doing your damn job. What, did you want to talk to him about baseball or crypto? He expressed a desire to leave quickly because he realized you were a dumbass. I pointed out to Charles that perhaps his priorities should be to check the welfare of his child. Oh my God. I seriously? I reminded Charles that he said Lori was unstable. He was aware of that dipshit Charles didn't seem, oh my gosh. Do they not realize that there is body cam footage? They don't care. They're just going to write what they want to write according to their opinions and yes, their bias. Charles didn't seem concerned with his child's welfare. What the ever-loving fuck? Did you take peyote? Like, that's not at all what happened. That's not, how did you even fucking interpret it that way? What the fuck, man? Said the child could stay in school and perhaps we could catch Lori as she picked him up, which wasn't a sting operation when you're like, I told Charles we weren't going to do a sting operation. That's not a fucking sting operation. He didn't ask you to put on camo and hand you the soundtrack to Mission Impossible. He said, hey, in broad daylight, you could probably find her here. Plus, JJ was safe at school. It was probably the best place for him, considering his routine had already been fucked up. And he's concerned about his kids. It's very fucking clear. And every interaction, they're his first priority. And she is too. He wants to get her help. So the kids, their safety is his priority, and so is Lori's. Money was one fucking aspect. During my conversation with Charles, I found his demeanor to be strange for a person in his circumstances. Are you fucking kidding me? He seemed more concerned with asking questions about the legality of financial withdrawal. No, he didn't. Financial withdrawals Lori had made. No, he didn't. Then her alleged incoherence. Are you? Oh my. Ugh. I discussed the case at length with Lieutenant Lyon. I bet you fucking did. And completed some more research. I would love to see your research. A witness was listed on the blank pickup order. His name was listed as blank. It was alleged, and then I don't have the other page. So I'm assuming this is Sergeant Gallus and that he called Gabe because apparently an illustrator can double as a doctor. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Bullshit. Okay, so the way it's written in the report is that he did the additional research, air quotes, after he spoke to Charles in the parking lot. But again, when that other officer was explaining the process, air quotes again, he said that they would verify the order first. So did he verify the order with the doctor and then decide the doctor's opinion wasn't good enough? And so then, like, that's almost worse. Then he does the additional research and calls, motherfucker. I'm putting the phone call footage here because it's the same sergeant that is talking to Gabe on the phone that was at the parking lot. Sergeant full of shit. Gabe just throws Charles right under the bus.
Hello, this is Gabe.
Hey Gabe, this is Scott Gallus with the Gilbert Police Department. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Why don't you call the fucking physician or the admitting officer rather than the bishop? Why was it that the bishop got a phone? Maybe they called the admitting officer, but only the bishop is on that body cam footage, Gabe Bonilla. Why does he even need to be called? First of all, because you have an order that you are required to carry out. It shouldn't fucking matter what the witness says. That's not your call to make as a police officer. Your call to make is, I have this order. I need to go pick up this blonde piece of shit. I will do that or attempt to do that. The dude does look like a returned missionary. I'm just saying. He probably saw Bishop and he's like, power of discernment, priesthood holder. I gotta listen to him instead of someone with a fucking medical degree. That's who will tell me the real story. It's not on record that I've seen or know of that he called and spoke with a physician or anybody at Community Bridges. I think he just called the bishop. And then after they got done talking about Lori, he was like, by the way, could you help me with this porn addiction I have?
Hey, the reason for my call, I'll just get right to the point. You're listed as a witness on a petition for an involuntary committal of a Lori Vallow?
Yes.
Which means you voluntarily signed that you were a witness to her crazy ass behavior.
What can you tell me about, I'm just kind of doing a little bit of follow-up on this paperwork, and I was hoping you could just kind of enlighten me, because these things are handwritten, so sometimes they don't necessarily encapsulate everything that you could tell me.
It's all in the order and the police report from last night. I don't know what to...
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I'll bring up to speed as best I know here, but his wife, she had been getting into some religious things that troubled him.
She was getting into some religious things that I may or may not be just perfectly fucking fine with.
The relationship was a bit odd in the last few months, and it kind of all came to a head when he went out of town. He had me listen to a conversation that he had with her where she was making some strange statements. to be very clear, there was nothing threatening or terroristic of any kind.
She didn't mention Al Qaeda, so she's good.
She didn't threaten to hurt herself or the children or him.
To be clear, she didn't threaten. Yes, she fucking did. She did. She threatened. You heard it on the phone. How are those things, those words she said, not threats? And the other thing, notice how he said she was getting into some things that her husband or he didn't approve of. He doesn't say he thought they were weird shit. I'm just saying. He doesn't say he thinks they're normal, but he certainly doesn't say these are abnormal. He says Charles didn't approve. It's a little telling, if you ask me.
She did tell him that she was going to get rid of his stuff, which actually was true, that when he got back, his things were actually gone from the house.
Okay.
When he returned, she had canceled his flights and done some other things to kind of make it really difficult for him to get back.
Yeah.
When he did return, he found that the house was all locked up. No one was home. Gilbert PD helped break in a door so that he could get in the house, and they cleared the house to make sure it was. He found some things missing, some clothes, a computer, but no one was home.
Okay.
And no evidence as to where they had gone.
So
That's really the gist of it. I understand now from third parties that she is staying at a hotel, that she appears to be okay, the children are okay.
I would really like to know who those fucking third parties are. Let me guess. Phil the fucking fire.
I haven't talked to Charles here for a little bit, so I'm not sure where he is at.
Okay. Let me ask you, sir, if I may. You said, did you listen to this? Was this like a live phone conversation, or was it a recording, or what did you listen to?
He put me in on a conversation. He just he didn't give me kind of warning on it. He just said, "Hold on a sec," and then I guess put me in on a conference call that he was doing with her.
Yeah.
And I thought I was listening to a recording at first, and then it dawned on me after a minute or so that this wasn't a recording, that it was actually a live conversation.
I feel like he's almost pushing the same narrative that Lori and Melanie are pushing, which is that Charles is kind of devious. So it's like he's reinforcing that. I just find his words and their words to be a little too much of a coincidence. It's kind of weird that he explains how surprised he was at this conversation, as if he's trying to get the officer to say, like, oh, he shouldn't have done that. Like he's trying to convince the officer. I don't know. I could be reading into it. I read into things sometimes, I know.
Okay. And then it ended pretty quick right after that.
Okay. And just so I'm clear, she didn't threaten him, the children, or herself in that conversation?
No, everything was subjective.
What's that smell? Do you smell it? I think it's bullshit. I think that's bullshit. Someone grab the Febreze. Seriously. It smells so bad.
She did use the word destroy. She said, "I will destroy you," but it was done in a very subjective way that it didn't necessarily come across as a direct threat to him or the children or herself.
Subjective. They were very subjective. Bullshit. It doesn't matter if they were subjective, by the way. I mean, semantics, got Mormon 101. I got to make sure that I have a way out and that I give others a way out so that there's an excuse for the shit they say. Subjective versus objective. Yeah, almost everything is subjective. That doesn't mean that it's not worthy of investigation, dipshit.
Okay, like it could have been destroy his reputation or something less literal?
His spirit, for all we know, his spirit powers or something, it's just very non-specific.
So then that would be literal. His spirit powers. That would be literal. Dipshit.
Okay.
Spirit powers, that is very specific in Mormonism, and it's literal to Mormons. That is not a term to dismiss. Spirit powers actually makes me wonder how much Gabe believes in this bullshit. And I'm not talking about Mormonism the way it is practiced today. I'm talking about his belief in these older, more obscure doctrines that most bishops today would find alarming and may not even be aware of or entertain as part of their religious beliefs today. So I think a normal bishop would be alarmed at these other things instead of just being alarmed at the fact that she told Charles to take the kids and she didn't care what happened to them. Then again, he forgot that part too. He just says she said to take the kids. But when you say destroy someone's spirit, you're literally saying you will destroy them for eternity. To me, it is worse that he says destroy his spirit than destroy him, because those are two different things in Mormonism, and it's disgusting that he minimizes that. Then again, we don't know what Lori was saying. We do know, though, how good she was at manipulating people into thinking that she was always the victim or the perfect primary president. So part of me wants to give these guys a break, because I grew up with a very manipulative person, and there were times when people thought that my father was really a terrible, abusive guy because she could convince them of that when that was nothing of the sort. It is easy for people like Lori, just like it was for my mother, to manipulate people into believing lies and into judging someone based on those lies. In fact, they're probably better than politicians at convincing people of things that are bullshit. However, as charmed as these officers were, they were given an order. It was involuntary. They knew it, and they ignored it. I don't care how charming someone is, they neglected their duty. There is no excuse for that. That is not what officers should stand for.
When she was speaking, and I know you said it was short, did she seem coherent, or was she...
She seemed coherent, but her statements were strangely irrational. She was accusing him of something, but would not tell him what it was.
Okay.
She seemed to indicate, again, in a somewhat oblique way, that he wasn't who he said he was. That he was. The only thing that actually concerned me out of the conversation that I thought was beyond the pale, so to speak, was, you know, he said, "Hey, I just want to see the kids," and she said something to the effect of, "Well, you want the kids, I'll give them to you," which I thought was a bit strange for a mom to say.
Yes, it was strange for a mom to say. It was strange for Lori Daybell to say. So were all the other weird shit things that were popping out of her mouth, but you didn't seem to care about those. They were subjective.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what made me wonder what was actually going on in her mind at that moment.
You are minimizing something that you were obviously very concerned about because you signed as a witness. So the only fucking thing is she said something that's weird for a mom to say.
Okay.
But she sounded very lucid as she was speaking.
Okay.
Oh, then she's perfectly fine. No worries. She's fine. Everything that Charles said or that was in the reports, don't worry about it. She's all good because third parties told them so. Those powers of discernment, you might want to check. You might want to have a tune-up of those because you clearly had a problem using them with Lori.
All right, sir. I think that's all. I really appreciate your time. I know this is an awkward position for you to be in, but I do appreciate the extra info.
No problem. I want to see everyone treated the best they can, and if she is in a bad state, that she gets the right kind of care, and hopefully this will resolve itself in the best way possible for those poor kids.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would disagree with you. So,
okay.
Thank you again.
Well, thank you, sir.
All right.
Bye.
So then Gabe hung up the phone and he turned to Jason and he's like, "Did I do okay? Did I say the right words, boss? Like, I did okay, right? Thanks for taking a recommend away for 5 fucking minutes." Go, Gabe. All right, so now we're on to the interview with Tylee and Lori and Melanie. We've all seen it, or most of us have seen it, and there are a couple things that I took note of. Definitely the call between Officer Dewey Dipshit and Charles. In my opinion, there is some sort of influence in common. Writer, former police officer, I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
No, I won't fit with those handles.
No? So I wasn't gonna file a
See,
report,
makes
but
my
my
hips
friend who
rather
is a
wide.
police officer told me to file a report.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he's like, it's just good to have it on record, so.
Yeah, okay, I got a little bit of info.
Now, let me just pose this to you. You have a friend who is a fellow gatherer, of course. I just think that, well, you're dealing with dipshits, Jen. It's not like you're dealing with normal people. Okay. All right. If you notice at the very beginning, and this is like throughout, now Lori hasn't been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I want to be clear about that. But if you have it, know someone who has it, or have experience in dealing with it, she sounds manic to me. She's like immediately like, blah, blah, blah. He just told me to fill out a police report and then I'm going to come down and fill out. She doesn't shut up. And you notice throughout the interview, Tylee, which breaks my heart, is trying to calm her down because she knows her mother is sounding like the crazy person she is, she's kind of trying to protect her in a way which she shouldn't have to do. She should have never had to do that. You have a child or a teenager that is so much more aware of the world around you than you are, that she could recognize something was going on. The officer sitting across apparently didn't get this cue. All right, fine. Master manipulator, Lori, blah, 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 blah. The fact of the matter is their ears should have perked somewhat. Somewhat.
Said he stole your phone,
What happened?
your purse.
Why don't you tell us what happened?
So yesterday, I got in an argument with my husband on the phone, and he was in Texas working, and I found some stuff that he'd been doing, so he was really defensive. And so I took the kids, we spent the night in a hotel because I knew he was coming home. And so this morning when I took my son to school, when I went into the school to take him into school, he was waiting somewhere and like stole my purse out of the car, my whole purse. So my phone, my wallet, my money, my everything was in there. So I had the door locked, but the sunroof was open because we have a service dog and he was in the car, and I didn't want to, my son was kind of throwing a fit. I didn't want to get them both out of the car because it was a mess this morning. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have any of our stuff because we spent the night in a hotel and he was out of his element. So I didn't lock the door for like the first time ever, and he like, whatever, either got it out, I don't remember if the door was locked, he got it out, or he reached through the sunroof and just got it.
Okay.
But then he started texting all my family and all my friends and impersonating me and got my friend lured over to the house to meet him, where he had like kicked in the door to get into the house and stuff, so.
And you did that this morning?
Last night.
Okay.
Which I'm glad we went there.
Right.
Okay, and we're gonna listen to Melanie and her. Does anyone know if she got that second asshole removed from her head? I'm just wondering. Remember, she's obsessed with this white Suburban. That's very much on her mind. She's very into the drama, which didn't surprise me. I'm like, there's the Relief Society president, or what we used to say, the ward information booth. That is Melanie Gibb. She is the ward information booth. She just bugs the shit out of me, I guess.
And so I got there, I'm like, Lori? Where's Lori?
But he texted her from my phone because he was pretending to be me, saying, come meet me at the house, or whatever.
Okay.
So,
How did he, what did he say to you?
He said, can you come to the house now?
And then when you
I
get,
said, sure, yeah.
okay.
And I proceeded to act like he was himself.
He proceeded to act like himself. Because that's who he fucking was. The way she says it, in my opinion, just the way I feel, is almost like she was surprised that he acted like himself and he wasn't breathing fire.
do you have the text messages on your phone?
I'm on my phone.
She doesn't have the text messages because she's lying. By the way, have you noticed how Melanie starts to mumble and go quieter when she starts to forget details of the lies? Lori acts like she's at a fucking cattle auction as the auctioneer.
I need to talk really fast because I'm totally full of shit and I'm lying and everything. Or they won't figure it out. They probably won't figure it out because all I have to do is this and talk like I'm a victim of abuse by a guy that has done nothing to me, like a princess, and gives me everything I need.
So when I got there, I said, you've been using Lori's phone to connect with me. He goes, sorry, I've deceived you. I said, oh, okay, yeah, you did.
Oh dear, sweet, stupid-ass Melanie. I now understand why John Pryor kept asking you questions about your ability to understand and remember information.
Okay, so you don't have any recollection. Is there anything that you have in terms of a medical condition that affects your ability to recollect anything, ma'am? Is there any condition such as an auditory disorder that you've been diagnosed with that affects your ability to understand and hear things? Never been medically diagnosed with an auditory disorder?
Let's take a look at the Chandler documents, specifically the interview with Miss Phibb and what she had to say. Little different than what she's saying in the body cam footage. Just a little. During this interview, Detective Coons asked Melanie about Charles' truck that was taken from the airport, the truck that completely slipped her mind at the police station the following fucking day. Melanie was aware of this and started to talk about how in January she witnessed Lori pack up 2 boxes of Charles' clothes. Lori took one to the donation center and another hid behind food storage. Okay. She asked Lori if she thought her actions were a little overboard. Melanie indicated that she texted Lori and asked how she was doing. That means Melanie texted Lori's phone first. She did not receive a text. Hence, no luring occurred. The response was not from Lori, but from Charles, asking if she could help him get his truck back. So even if he didn't announce, hello, Melanie, it is Charles. I am not doing so well because you and my crazy ass wife are talking translated beings and goddesses, and you're apparently her daughter, which I'm not paying child support for you, by the way. Anyway, realizing that Charles had Lori's phone, Melanie went to Lori's house in Gilbert to find her. So she knew Charles had Lori's phone. When she arrived, Charles was there with a locksmith because Lori locked him out of the house. But that slipped their minds too. Melanie and Charles had a conversation, and Charles told her that he was worried about Lori. He told her that she claimed she was a translated being and was married to Moroni. And Melanie was like, oh my God, me too. He also told her that Lori thought he was some guy named Ted, which is Ned. Melanie stated that she felt bad for Charles because he was such a sweet guy. So yes, Melanie knew. She knew her friend was talking translated beings. She knew her friend said she was married to Moroni, which she was probably jealous of. Maybe she got lucky and was married to Nephi or something. Or actually, probably Sariah, Nephi's mom. So basically, Melanie's lying her ass off throughout this whole interview, for some reason wanting to not only shit talk Charles, but find out and have the police get to the bottom of this white Suburban in the driveway. And the officer's like, ooh, that's interesting.
Luckily, there were some other people there that were.
He was changing the locks and probably got the door fixed where he kicked it in. So that
the locksmiths were there, so I'm glad that they were there. But there was a white Suburban, which I don't know. It was up there. I don't know where he got that car, but anyway, it was a few vehicles, so I didn't know, who. I suspected it would be her. I should have noticed that your car wasn't there, but I didn't notice that. So.
Okay, what kind of car do you drive?
An Infinity QX 80.
So you got to the house, and then you got there. He said, "Yeah, I deceived you," and then what was he calling you there for?
He wanted me to come over there and get some information about her.
Melanie is building it up to make this look just like Lori is. This is why I don't give a shit that I make fun of these people, because they're fully accountable for their actions, and they took some real dipshit actions. But Melanie is almost creating an additional drama. She's saying things in a way that an officer unfamiliar with the situation would start to think maybe this is an abusive situation because they don't know how to read other cues. Something isn't right in Zion. Something's off. But Melanie reinforces this white Suburban fucking thing and this wanted information about her.
Oh, okay. What did he ask you?
He was asking, what's got into her,
where is she, right?
Where is she? Of course, I didn't say where she was. I didn't know where she was. She didn't actually.
I didn't tell anybody.
She didn't tell me
because I just thought it was safer for everybody to know.
He just basically wanted me to take his side, I think, and just say.
Let's remember that she had 2 children, one of which is special needs. So naturally, he would be concerned about where she was because she also had his children. See, this is the thing. She says little things throughout this that because the officer was working on his handwriting, I don't think he realized. So there are clues throughout this whole thing that I can recognize as shit ain't right.
Yeah. Told her how crazy I was and stuff like that. So.
And what was your name?
Melanie.
Melanie. Your last name?
Gibb.
Gibb.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just because for documentation later, what's your date of birth?
So easy to remember.
So, okay, so he had you come there, I was asking you questions, so, is this something that's happened before, or is this
unfortunately, we've had to
okay,
even go to hotels just while he calms down or something, so we've done that before.
What is it, that motivates him doing this kind of stuff? Does he say why?
He just goes nuts sometimes. But
just goes
this
nuts
time
sometimes?
I caught him cheating, and I had evidence, and I told him about it, and he travels a lot for business, so I told him about it and told him not to come home and that his stuff would be gone and that his car would be gone and all this thing. So he's a little mad.
She's just trying to protect herself.
But I just left with the kids because I didn't want them in all the drama.
So then he took your phone and purse, and has he tried to make contact with you since?
He's trying to contact me through her. He has my phone. I don't have a way to be contacted.
Yeah, and I didn't know what her phone. I couldn't contact her.
Nobody could contact me. I just went and bought a phone so I could have a little throwaway phone. So I could.
Have you called him to ask him if he'd bring your stuff back?
Well, he talked to her about it. So.
And what was?
Yeah, I said, would you be willing to give me the purse for Lori?
And he goes, no, unless she does this, and all these.
Don't speak in generalities. I want
sorry.
specifics.
He wants me to
What did
meet
he
him at
say?
therapy.
Melanie is using what is called her reverent voice. She's being very reverent right now. Would you be willing? Because I'm so innocent and I'm just here concerned for my friend and just to add unnecessary drama and contribute to her lies. I know that she thinks her husband is possessed. I also think that because I'm a fucking dipshit too. Why don't you just admit what's really going on? You think Charles is a demon, put it in the report. Blah, blah, blah.
Today or something. To meet him in therapy. But he wasn't going to give you the purse. He just was saying he'd give it to me if I meet him there.
Okay.
Lori's like, fuck, Melanie, remember your damn lines. We rehearsed all this.
I don't really want to talk to him today if I don't have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we have him bring the purse back, are we all good? Like, I mean, you're not willing to meet with him with a therapist or anything to try to get it back?
I don't want to meet with him because I don't know. He's very sneaky. So like what he'll do is meet me in the parking lot and mess around with me, whatever. Like he's not going to just.
What if we
let
called
me
him
walk
and
into therapy,
see if he'll come here and we can facilitate him giving your purse back?
That would be fine. You want to try that? I know he has it because he.
Obviously, he's texting
He's
her.
texting all my family and the kids too.
Yeah. So we know it was him that took the purse because he.
What's he texting you?
I have the text. He was basically just texting me.
He was acting like that my son was in danger. I was worried about JJ's safety and things and texting her like he's gonna.
So he at first texted me, "You doing okay today? Hey girl, I may not be home for a bit. Love you." Sent me a strange link to a website about our church.
Crazy people.
They're like, crazy people. Us, actually. It's us. We're the crazy people. It's the only fucking truth she told that entire interview. So I guess we give her credit for that.
Said this is what's happening, and then he texted me at almost midnight. But I have no choice, or I had no choice. He didn't file a police report or anything as far as we know, so I'm just assuming he was trying to get a response, and then I love you. He was.
Police report about what?
Or I don't know, but he was acting like he did something.
And those
basically.
text messages came from, do you have it entered as mom's phone or?
No, that was from him.
That's before
That was from his phone.
He didn't take the purse until 8:30.
This was last night.
Oh, you mean that time when he called police and asked them to serve the order, and then later that morning he explained that he had taken her purse? Like, so many opportunities. All he had to do was ask more questions and talk to the other officers who had already been on 2 calls about this. 3, really.
And he was sending word for word the same text to my cousin.
Okay, I've been known to do that. It's just more efficient.
So my friend that's a police officer, he said, go file a report, file a restraining order, all that stuff. I don't want to do all that stuff. I just wanted to be on record, and if you can get the purse back, that'd be lovely, because all my stuff is in there. I'm really mad about my lip gloss.
About credit cards.
Well, he has all the cards and all this
Yeah.
stuff, so he's mad because I took the money out of our account, but it's a joint account, so he wants me to give him money.
Okay, well, that's all a civil issue.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Purse, there's no reason why he's walking around with your purse, your ID, that he doesn't have a right to.
right.
Married or
That's what I'm
not
saying. All
married.
the rest of the stuff is our joint stuff together.
Yeah.
So.
All right. We're gonna leave the room temporarily. We're gonna try to give him a call, see if we can't get this rectified.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right.
Fair warning. This part really pisses me off. I will have strong opinions and strong language. Just fair warning.
All right, we'll go back here. Do cell phone. You want to try calling or you want me to call?
I don't know. This one's a little confusing for me, honestly.
Wait for a few months, then it'll be confusing.
Okay. Charles. Hi, this is Officer Edgerton, Gilbert PD. Is this Charles? Hey, Charles. The reason why I'm calling right now is your wife's at the police department claiming you stole her purse and her cell phone.
That laugh.
Okay, you realize they don't belong to you, correct? Okay, so that's a civil issue, and she's responsible for every penny when if you guys end up going through divorce proceeding. Okay, and you also texted a friend to meet you at the house last night under the guise that you were her. What was that for? So you texted a friend of hers to meet you at the house last night, using her cell phone. What was that all about? Oh, this morning? Yeah, we read the report from earlier today regarding you not being able to get into the house and everything, so.
Okay, what the fuck? Did he just say he read the report from earlier today? So he's aware of that report.
I do not have the order in front of me, so I cannot do that. It's got to be approved, and I know I cannot I cannot get her, well, it's got to go to our sergeant, who's got to call, verify that it's good, and then we get dispatched.
Seriously, I don't have it in front of me. You don't enter things into a computer system, which, by the way, the night before, the officer said, it's valid, it's a pickup order, blah, 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 blah. Then that morning, valid. I don't have that. It's already fucking been approved, dude. It's already been approved. It had to be because they went on a call and we heard it in the body cam footage. So either you need to get your eyes checked and you need readers sooner than you thought, or you need to just fucking do your job. Just do your job.
So that's just how the process works. And I can't keep somebody against their will without a warrant or the valid. Well, I'm telling you right now, we have a process.
He followed the process. You guys fucked it up.
You turn it in, it goes to a sergeant. Sergeant calls the doctor. Okay, well, I don't have that, and for all we know, it's not valid anymore. I do not know.
Why? Well, here's what I don't get. There's a police report from the night before. There is an order in the system. 2 officers know is valid. You had the officer the night before, and whoever he talked to that said it was a valid order was probably a sergeant. So you already have people, and you have a report, should have a report in the system that says all of that.
What I'm concerned about. Yeah, well, that's not what I'm discussing a whole separate issue right now, and that's her getting her belongings back.
That's far more important than an order that someone is severely ill and needs to be evaluated. The purse, way more fucking important. Is that what you're saying? You're saying that the purse is more important, but if you opened your eyes and knew how to read, I'm assuming you do, you would know that the whole purpose of his call was he didn't know where his children were, and he was very concerned for their safety, and his wife was saying that she was going to kill him. So if you read the report, but you don't have it in front of you, I'm sorry, I am not familiar with whatever bullshit system Gilbert has in place, but I feel as though it's very inefficient and not a good use of taxpayer dollars. They have a system where they can't even look something up, and they don't have it in front of them, and they have to get it approved, even though it's already been approved and they've seen it, and fuck.
Okay, you're saying it's at the house, which you changed the locks on, correct? So she doesn't have access to.
If he read the order, then he would know that Charles didn't change the locks. Lori changed the locks. Charles had to break in with the help of Gilbert Police, and then, of course, had to replace them. So when he says, well, you changed locks, which she doesn't have access to. Good detective work, Sherlock. Did you really read the report? Because you just said you did, and then you said you didn't have the order in front of you, and it had to be verified, which it didn't have to be verified. We know that for sure, because you are, at this point, the 4th contact. The order was dispatched at midnight, then it was attempted to be served earlier, but they didn't get there in time, and then it was discussed in a 3rd call. You are the 4th contact. Something should be in the fucking system. Seriously, do they not have an electronic system? I really want to know that. Someone, if you know, please tell me. Because to me, it seems like they have an outdated system. It's like, who are you, the fucking VA? You would catch that when they're talking about the rental car in the white Suburban. That's weird. Why would they know about that? So you would know those things prior to making a phone call and acting like Mr. Tough Guy. Did we miss the part of the body cam footage where Lori offered him a BJ? Because honestly, I feel like some type of exchange for a certain type of favor was offered off camera.
Yes. So unless you want to be charged with theft, we need to get that purse back to her. If you want to come here with the purse and that order, we can get this all try to figure it out. And the purse. And her cell phone. Okay. So how soon can you be here? We're at the police department, 75 East Civic Center Drive, Gilbert and Warner. Thank you. All right, how long? All right, but he says he's coming with the order.
So this should get interesting.
It's gonna get real interesting.
Oh, you have no fucking clue how interesting it's going to get. And it didn't have to get that interesting. Oh, it's the next part that's really going to piss me off. Yeah, the next part is what really pisses me off.
And when I talked to him, he was all upset, wondering what are we going to do about that. I have until it is verified by my sergeant that it's still active, they still want you. I can't hold you against your will. But if it's verified by my sergeant, which he says could take a little while, then if it is verified, then I have to take you to Community Bridges. It's a mental health behavior place to get looked at. But while it's being verified, I have no right to keep you and hold you, just so you're aware.
Seriously? I have to get it checked and blah, 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 blah. Okay, first of all, it's still valid. We read all that shit. You're now going to instruct her on how not to follow the order. This asshole, I'm sorry, officer asshole, should have gotten disciplined for this, but I don't have a lot of hope.
So he's supposedly en route with your purse and your phone, and then and the order also, which needs to be verified by my sergeant. So we will facilitate the transfer of the purse and the phone, and while we go give the mental health petition to my sergeant, and she's verifying it, you do whatever you feel you need to do.
Okay.
This is really triggering. I'm really triggered right now. We know that they saw the order. We know that at least 2 sergeants saw it and verified it. So why does a third, what am I missing? I'm missing something. They can't be this inept. I've got to be missing something.
How we're going to get that to go away, I do not know.
Excuse me, officer. How we are going to get that to go away, I do not know. That is a terrifying sentence. You think you actually have the judgment, the education, and the power to make legal orders go away? Fucking hell. I had to jump through a goddamn portal just to make sure I heard you correctly. Yeah, I'd come right up to the Celestial Kingdom.
You may need to you can probably contact Community Bridges, that's CBI, Community Bridges. We have one, I don't know if you even want to just go up there, at Mesa Drive and Baseline. It's off Javelina, which is the street before you get to the freeway if you're going north towards the freeway. Find out what you need to do to prove yourself, because what it is committal paperwork.
Right.
They can hold you for 24, 48, however long they deem it necessary to get you evaluated.
Right.
Based off just what your husband
says.
Yeah.
Wow.
So doctors play it safe.
I personally don't believe that. I don't believe that doctors play it safe because you're talking about taking away someone's freedom and you're talking about taking away their autonomy. Charles said some real shit that was going on, and they recognize this doesn't sound like something a normal, balanced human being would be saying. And the fact that the bishop corroborated that before, well, she said, well, basically, I'm really scared of Jason Mao, allegedly.
I just think it's funny because he's trying to tell everything.
Right.
Shut the fuck up.
So,
That's very smart. Because I'm really the one that did something wrong.
but here's the thing: is I don't know, and I'm not going to take sides.
Right, no,
but just talking to you, I mean, I don't see you being a danger to yourself or anybody else. You got your kids to school.
You, as an officer, as far as I know, do not have a medical degree. You do not get to determine in the 15 minutes that you have been talking to her that she's perfectly fine and dandy. You've got a pretty serious pickup order. You've got pretty serious allegations, and you've got a 16-year-old and a 6.5-year-old. Let's not forget, a 6.5-year-old. Impossible danger. You should always err on the side of, yeah, she looks normal, but just to be safe, I am not going to tell her how to get out of an order like this. I'm not going to give her tips. That shit pisses me off.
I don't know, But I'm not gonna place that, I'm just gonna let you know that we are required, if you're here, that we will, even against with force if we have to,
Right.
if you're still here when it's approved, we'll have to take you to CBI.
What does that mean? What is that again? It means it's not voluntary. It's not voluntary. So probably not a great idea, probably not advisable to tell a patient who has an involuntary evaluation order how to get away with not being evaluated.
What is it called? I'm just gonna write it down.
Community Bridges.
Okay.
That's where we take you. Now, I don't know who he went through to get the order taken care of.
That's what I'm saying. How do you even get that? He got that in the middle of the night? How do you get something in the middle of the night?
It's family members can do it for other ones who have like drug dependency or not getting help.
Mental
health.
Yeah, but how would he get?
issues.
He had to come here. Isn't stuff closed?
It's not here. There are places you can go. So
How would you think of something?
I don't know.
You think about stuff like that because your wife is saying she married fucking Moroni.
It's called Community Bridges. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna write it down.
So I'm
But
going
they'll be
to.
looking for me. That's the whole thing. Like,
We don't bust down doors to get you,
Yeah.
but we will knock. So if you see police officers knocking, talk to them through the door if you really don't want to go.
okay.
If you want a free medical evaluation,
I was
psychological
gonna say I haven't
evaluation.
gotten any sleep in about 3 days. They have good facilities.
They do actually, from what I understand.
And a gym where I could work out.
Yeah,
I'm
so,
kind of happy.
Like I said,
You'll be okay without your mama.
You are going to get a padded room.
So officers don't kick down doors to serve these. They're civil orders.
Right.
They're for your safety. It's not illegal. If it was because you're a danger to yourself, it's not illegal to kill yourself. So,
But I'm pretty sure it's illegal to kill other people. Fucking hell. Fucking hell.
we don't go busting down doors.
Right.
But if we make contact with you, there's nothing separating us. At that point,
You can
we
just
know
say
it's
anything you
you.
want about someone and get a mental health order against them.
Not so if it's a family member, and depending on what he told the doctors, they'll do it just to be safe. Otherwise,
So
say
you can
something
say they're
happens to
suicidal
you,
or something and
right?
get it.
So something happens, you do something to yourself, he's going to go after those doctors. I told you, you didn't sign the order. She should have gotten help.
Right.
That sort of thing. So
Do
there
you
becomes
know-
some liability.
It should also be a liability for a police department to tell someone how to escape an order, a mandatory order that you were supposed to carry out. She was sitting right in front of you and you're like, no, she seems normal. The doctor has a liability. You have a liability. Oh, wait, you don't, because we don't hold officers accountable or police departments accountable most of the time.
Do you know what he said?
No.
1 Frank 17. Yeah, we're aware. Let me step out. I'll talk to you.
We're aware of the order, but I'm busy telling her how to get out of it and how to escape it because I made a snap judgment as the not a doctor I am that she must be fine.
She's going to apply to the academy. She's now a high school graduate, right? At 16.
Yeah, are you?
Yeah, well, she got her GED, so she's moving on with life.
You really want to be a police officer?
Maybe. You never know.
We'll look forward to this stuff, man.
Yeah, Tanya wants to be a police officer really bad. I mean, that is such a classic. She's always trying to use her children as pawns. She knew if the fembot thing wasn't working, the kids will work. There was an awkward pause, and she felt like she had to feel like, Tyler wants to be a police officer. She wants to go to the academy. And Tyler's like, I mean, maybe she did. Maybe she wanted to be a police officer, but she was clearly like, maybe I kind of want to go to college. What the fuck, Mom?
I'm actually pretty new myself, so I just got on, it's like my first month on training after out of the academy. So this is kind of a more unique call than what I've seen. This is a little bit different. What's unique about it is either the theft or the petition was usually a separate deal. I mean, the fact that all of a sudden he stole your phone and then all of a sudden there's a petition out there too, it's like...
A warning sign. It's a warning sign. That's what they're called.
I've seen one or the other. I haven't seen both in one.
Well, that's what he was saying then when he texted you that. I'm so sorry I had to do it. I was worried about you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably what
Like, he literally hadn't
like
seen
a thing,
JJ for like 6 hours
Yeah.
and he'd been at school, so it's not like he was in any kind of...
Well, he was out of town too.
Yeah, but still.
So, I mean, yeah, it's a good thing you did come in because it would be a very one-sided story, so it's always good to kind of see.
Yes, there are two sides to every story, but when you have a legal obligation as an agency to carry out an order, your job is to take the person into the center for evaluation. What that center's job is to determine if that person needs treatment. Just like it's not your job to evaluate something a witness says and determine that as fact and as a reason why you don't have to do your job that day.
What's going on?
That was very smart. Yeah, Jason's sweet.
What was really cool, because I love him. So I was sitting there in the, coming out of her neighborhood after he conned me to go to the house, and I
Yeah, he conned her to go to the house.
Pulled over, by that pool, and then I see this guy that I know, just like
our good friend,
just like right.
Yes, we've heard. You've mentioned several times your friend, the police officer. Lori did tell Melanie that she knew how to handle the police, and it looks like she was telling the truth. Because she fucking... like, fembot, suspicious. This whole thing is suspicious. It reeks. It smells terribly. Like shit, actually. It smells awful.
In front of me on the side of the road, and I'm like, that looks like Jason. I'm like, hold on, that's Jason. He's police guy.
Police guy? Oh, what are you, 7? You could just say off police guy. Jeez. Ugh, fucking police guy.
I'm gonna go. So I'm like, Jason, what are you doing over here? Because I was just going visiting Gabe.
He was just visiting Gabe. Oh, Gabe, you mean that guy, the bishop that the sergeant talked to earlier, later, whenever the fuck? That guy. Huh. Interesting.
Oh, yeah?
Like, hey, I just want to know what's going on. He goes, yeah, go down to the Liz office now. I'm like, oh.
So do you guys have separate cars?
We do.
What car does he drive?
So he has a Ford F-150 truck.
Oh, okay. So then the white Suburban, you had no idea what that was?
That was his buddy's car, he said.
He said it was his buddy's car.
But he doesn't have any buddies, so it was a white Suburban. I didn't know because it was too.
I would think it would be a rental car.
So if Officer Friendly had read the reports from the night before, or from the early morning hours, or talked to anyone that had previously talked to Charles, he would have known about the truck that was taken. So maybe, just thinking, if he was paying attention when Lori said, oh, I thought he would be in a rental, he could have asked, why do you think Charles would be in a rental? You haven't seen him since the day before yesterday. You haven't talked to him. How would you know that? I love how Melanie keeps talking about this white Suburban, because I'm like, you're literally blowing the story. Like, you literally are blowing the cover. And I don't think she even gets that. I think she's trying to make Charles into like this mystery devious man. And she doesn't get, like, by saying, oh, he's in a white Suburban, this white Suburban. I know it was his car. So why is he in a white Suburban? Oh, because he doesn't have his truck. Oh, it must be a rental car, Lori? How would you fucking know that? But he doesn't catch on to that. And he's new, so I don't completely blame him. But I just think if they had read shit or talked to other officers and sergeants, which they did, but they, like, somehow still fucked up, which... was it a fuck up or was it on purpose? How do we know? There's just a few coincidences throughout this whole thing that are a little too coincidency. He could have put that together with Tylee saying he didn't file a police report. Okay, why would he file a police report? Like, the officer asks a police report.
Came back, he was gone, and I know it was his car because the other, the guys fixed
the
locks.
We're still there.
We're still there, so I know it was that one because he left.
He said it was his buddy's car, but he doesn't have any buddies. And
that's really strange. So what kind of questions?
Changed the locks on me. I'm on the lease as well, the house.
I don't think so. Honestly, I have to obviously confirm with him, but to be honest with you, you should be able to have access to it as well if it's your house.
So he's changed them all. They're all changed probably by now.
Yeah, he's trying to lock me out just because whatever.
Just because what? What? Finish that sentence. Go ahead. Just because you threatened him? Just because you said you didn't care what happened to the kids? Just because you stole his truck? Just because you have been lying to everyone? Just because you stole money out of the account? Just because you're cheating on him? There are just so many options, Lori. Come on. What the fuck?
Yeah. I assume it would just be because how we were saying you need to be able to, or he needs to be able to get in the house. It should be the same.
Right, so I can kick the door down too.
Yeah. I don't know. I think so.
It gets fixed.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in there if he's in there. That's the whole point. So I left.
No, it was creepy. I was like, oh my gosh, where's Lori? Is she? I thought you were there. It was so creepy. I'm so glad those two other guys were there.
I swear to God, Melanie's like, me. I have to be traumatized too. Oh, it was so scary going over there. Thank God the locksmiths were there. I was so scared. Then why the fuck did you drive over there? Why the fuck did you, walk in and have a conversation with him? What? Seriously. Luckily, they were there to save me. It was creepy. And then Lori's like, you were just being a good friend to me. Do you mean daughter? Just wondering. Because a friend would be like, what the fuck, Lori? As much as Melanie claims now that she questioned Lori on things, I don't see evidence of that.
Yeah, I know that you weren't just there by yourself with him. That'd be even worse.
I should have, like, in retrospect, I probably should have walked away quickly, but I wasn't prepared for that.
Oh no, it looks like Charles put the perfect prideful prepper from preparing a people in quite the pickle. Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? A little too ironic. Yeah, I really do think.
It really is.
You were just being a good friend to me, so I appreciate it. I'm sorry that you're caught up in it. And he's catching up everybody in it. He calls everybody on my phone, so now he has phone access to all my friends, and he's calling them all to tell how crazy I am and whatever. Because he got smacked.
Because he got smacked. That was something that Difficult Research Kresha heard in the beginning. She told me about that, and I was like, I didn't hear that. Well, I fucking heard it now. Because he got smacked, and the officer's like, yeah, I'm busy writing.
And this is just a recent thing? Has he done this before, or like?
This is in like 24 hours. Like, or he's done.
Like, has he done this before? Yeah.
But this whole situation
Not this extreme,
happened.
but he's been ballistic where we had to leave because he was being awful, and I don't want him to hurt one of the kids or something.
If it all happened within the last 24 hours, what reasoning do you have to determine that Charles isn't telling the truth? There's no previous records in the system talking about all this. Oh, he's very sneaky. He'll just mess with me. What will he do? Are you going to say he's going to hit you in the parking? Like, you're not willing to meet with a therapist. Why isn't this raising any flags? Like, they should be... Because why wouldn't you meet with the therapist? You just want your purse back. Well, he said he would give it back to you. You're acting like you're in this dangerous situation. Okay, well, but there are certain clues when someone really is in that situation. You do not appear to be in that situation. And the officers should be able to at least be neutral. I'm not going to take sides. Okay, so what is your idea of taking sides? I'm just curious. I want to know this guy's idea of neutral. I'm not going to take sides. Does anybody here think that he had a neutral opinion and was neutral throughout this interview? Anyone? I don't see any raised hands. I don't. Unless you're the guy that said that. And then, hi, Officer Dumbass. Nice to meet you.
Probably 3 or 4 times that I can remember.
Yeah, 13 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, it's super awkward.
Okay, so they got him in there and they got you. Perfect. I'll just get... Oh, I already got your information, so I'm good there.
So basically, how did he even know to get a mental health thing? I don't even know how he would know how to do that.
Is that your daughter's phone, I'm assuming?
No, it's my mom's old broken phone.
Oh, you were using her phone?
I got a SIM card today and put it in so I would have something.
Yeah, no, you can't go without a phone.
You just can't.
She says she went and bought this cell phone, and then she says, oh, it's her mom's cell phone.
Yeah, we're going to have to put Jason and Thor and all our people.
Yeah, our friends.
Well, yeah, it takes us a while to verify the orders. That's kind of like, yeah, so as long as the order's not verified, we can't serve it, so.
Seriously, it's been verified. It's got to be in the system somewhere, or was in the system somewhere. We have to verify it with every fucking sergeant that comes on duty. Maybe I missed something. Maybe you have to verify petitions on an hourly basis. It's already been verified. The fact that they went to the hotel with it in hand so that they could, what? What did that officer say?
That's why we need the paperwork in hand. Okay, so we can take her.
They could pick her up on that order. They just needed the paperwork in hand. Obviously, it was verified. Obviously, it was valid. So they need to do that all over? This whole thing is bullshit. What is it? Is it like a gigapet? Do you have to verify it? Kind of like you have to feed a gigapet? Or it expires?
Don't forget your gigapet!
You were kind of saying you only want like a report, but is this going to be like an ongoing thing? Like, is this like, are you concerned about getting back in the house? Like, what's the game plan now?
Now we are.
Yeah.
Now we are that we know we changed all the locks.
Yeah.
And our friend was downtown Phoenix police officer, and he talks a lot of those stories.
So your buddy Jason, you're saying,
Jason
he's
Mao.
Phoenix? That's what I was going to ask.
Our friend, a police officer, Jason Mao, M-O-W. He worked for the police.
Yeah, he was Phoenix.
He had an incredible case where when he was taking the bad guy down, his hamstrings pulled off his legs.
His story is really incredible.
It is an incredible story. It took him 3 years to walk again.
Bullshit. I call bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. You mean to tell me that at the exact same time, Jason Mao's hamstrings just detached completely on their own while he was chasing a bad guy? Clearly the guy works out a lot. I did a little Googling. I'm not saying this is the case, but you know what causes muscle tears, where they can completely rupture and tear? You know, causes some muscle weakness, other issues with organs. Anabolic steroids. What? I didn't say anything. You misheard me. Just a side note, these people seem obsessed with these personal stories of overcoming, even if by some chance he tore both at the exact same time while running, with no previous problems, nothing previous, just all of a sudden one day, boom. Even if that happened, 3 years? I googled that too. Several months. So I would say with both, maybe a year and a half. People get in car accidents and learn to walk sooner than 3 years. So, bullshit. Really, he laid in bed, he lost it. I mean, his book is like, I lost everything. And now I write children's fiction, basically. Meet people, do very harmful podcasts with teachings that encourage mystical thinking and all this shit I say I'm against when I'm teaching seminary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for whom I am employed. We all heard the podcasts, or if you've probably heard at least one, you don't need to hear anymore. I'll just say it. He looks like he would be the kind of officer that would shoot first and ask questions later. Chasing a bad guy? Okay. Yeah. It's a fucking stupid story. I want to find out if it's true. But that would be his private medical records, and even if it is true, he's a douche. I mean, I could be wrong. My expertise is health policy, so all of the really boring stuff behind the scenes. I am not a physician, nor do I practice as one like these officers here.
But the police department said it was a pre-existing addition and wouldn't pay for it.
Pre-existing.
Sorry.
Let's go through the Gilbert report, and then we'll go through the Chandler report. I'm assuming it was the tough guy officer that was like, yeah, because it says officer in training Rippertella. But yeah, it's the guy that's like, I like doing these calls because I'm a big man. I'm a tough guy. You know, those kind of officers. That's the way he came off. When I watched the body cam, he came off just like a stereotype. Anyway, so he talks about at 12:36, he met with Lori, and this is just the synopsis, which is 4 sentences. It was determined that Lori would be allowed to go to blank willingly to talk with the staff at the facility rather than being transported by GPD. Fuck up. Right there. I am sorry, but that is a fuck up. Says they were dispatched to the lobby and they spoke to all parties in an interview, and they talked about how Charles had taken her purse from Lori's vehicle while she walked their son into school. Didn't mention the fact that Charles had been trying to get in contact with the police so that they could pick her up there on the involuntary order that they were required to carry out. Nothing about that, just that he stole her purse. It should be noted Lori provided a lot of background information regarding her and Charles' relationship. She was full of shit. Lori indicated she had information that Charles had cheated on her. That whole thing she was just doing to sell her side of the story, and they totally bought it. She had left their home with their kids prior to his arrival back in Arizona. Lori indicated she just wanted her property back and wanted the incident documented, but no charges. She just wanted to make him look bad. I love how it's like, Lori indicated she just wanted her property back. You know, her purse and lip gloss. I'm sure you can find more whore-flavored lip gloss at the concession stand next to the temple. Anyway, I called Charles via telephone. Charles stated he was at the school this morning to assist. GPD was serving an involuntary order on Lori, which he obtained overnight. When Lori walked their son into school, Charles stated her purse was on the ground next to her car, and he took the purse to keep it safe. Charles had many excuses. Oh, a little bias. I love how they always mark, at least in Utah or the police department that I've dealt with, they'll mark like bias indicated no. It's like, okay, who's going to say, yes, I was completely biased during this call? But anyway, Anyway, Charles had many excuses as to why he did not give it back to her. No, he didn't. He had one, and it wasn't an excuse. He was trying to stop her. He didn't know she had a spare set of keys ready to go, so he thought he was going to keep her from leaving the parking lot so that the police could pick her up. I informed Charles he could be charged with theft, but that Lori only wanted the items back. Charles stated he wanted his share of the money Lori had pulled out of their joint bank account, his share. He had to make payroll, so she may have been on the bank account, but I'm thinking it was probably a business account. Charles then asked me if we were going to serve the order on Lori. I informed Charles I had no knowledge of the petition and he could bring bullshit. He said, I don't have it in front of me right now. He said at the beginning of the conversation that they had seen the report that dispatch was because of the order. So you can't tell me the only thing in that report was, I went to Charles's house and hung out, had a beer. We kicked in the door for fun. You know, it was just a great time. Fuck this guy. I had no knowledge. Fucking liar. He could bring Lori's property in the petition to the PD so it could get verified by my sergeant, even though it was already verified because it had to be verified. It's on body cam, dude. Why do they lie? There's body cam footage. Charles stated he would be driving to the PD to give me the items and the petition. During my contact with Lori, I found her to be in a normal state of mind, but only slightly upset she did not have her property, aka her whore-flavored lip gloss. Lori showed no signs of mental distress as she described what was occurring and appeared to be in a good mood. Buffaloed. Totally buffaloed, dude. Talking with Lori's daughter and friend, they did not seem concerned for anything other than Lori getting her property back. They didn't even fucking talk to Tylee really, except like, oh, you want to be a police officer? Great. In fact, if they had paid attention to what Tylee was doing and what she was saying and what Lori said in that interview, which was because he got smacked, indicating she had been the abuser, and if they had inquired more on why Charles would have filed a police report, which they should have already fucking known about the truck. That's got to be in that report too. So on the next page, he talked with Sergeant Gallus, acting Sergeant Gallus, which is the guy on the phone call with Gabe and the guy who was giving him advice in the parking lot of the Hyatt Hotel. So you can guess how I feel about that return missionary, allegedly. By the way, all of this is alleged. All of my comments are alleged. Sergeant Gallus, who informed me of his review of the petition Charles had dropped off at GPD earlier in the day, and that you had from the night before because fucking cop in that body cam footage, well, in the early morning around midnight when they responded to the home, he was holding the order and said, it's valid. I was informed by Sergeant Gallus of information he had found out when attempting to verify the petition. See supplemental report for more information. I think this is a page that was missing. I talked to another YouTuber and they didn't remember seeing that page either. So someone could have it. Another channel could have it. I just couldn't get a hold of it. I do know these reports are in the Chandler docs, all 7 pages, but they were all redacted in my copy. So someone could definitely have them unredacted. So Sergeant Gallus of information he had found out when attempting to verify the petition. Do you think maybe it was that conversation with Gabriel and not the doctor or anyone at the facility that had issued the order? Because he's such a good fucking detective. That's why he was promoted. I informed Sergeant Gallus of my observations from talking to Lori, which means because I think I have a medical degree. Sergeant Gallus informed me he would talk with Lieutenant Lyle and call me back. I received a call back, and based on all the information we had, it was determined I would talk to Lori and encourage her to talk with employees at blank today, or I could give her a courtesy ride there if she wished. Yeah, it was determined. How about I determined, or Sergeant Gallus determined, or we determined? First of all, that's a passive sentence, which is annoying. I talked with Lori and explained to her about the order. Oh, really? Because you kind of explained to her about how to get out of the fucking order. Lori was confused as to how someone could make up information to get someone involuntary committed. First of all, it wasn't a commitment. It wasn't committal paperwork like they said. I think they said it twice. It wasn't committal paperwork. It was involuntary evaluation, which is completely different. I explained to Lori the process of escaping the order, and regardless of the truthfulness of the petition, which unfortunately I was hypnotized by the fembot, couldn't see through her bullshit act, it did exist and she needed to take care of it by leaving the police department when I left the room, is kind of what you insinuated or hinted at. I informed Lori if she didn't take care of it, it would still be official and I would have to take her involuntarily. You were supposed to do that anyway. Lori stated she would go on her own. Tylee and Melanie stated they would ensure she checked in and talked with people at blank. Melanie, I guess, stated she would not leave Lori tonight until she had done this. Okay, so they supposedly went that day. Based on the information provided to me by Sergeant Gallus, Lori's demeanor during our conversation and the fact she had a family and friend ensuring Lori would contact, I'm assuming like community bridges, I did not feel it necessary to take Lori against her will. Okay, he acknowledges up in that paragraph, 2 paragraphs above, someone involuntary committed. So he knows this is involuntary. So if it's involuntary, then yeah, you would be okay to take her against her will because it's involuntary. I will follow up with the facility on February 1st. I'm having a hard time believing that Officer Numbnuts actually did that. Also, he automatically, when she said, how could anyone make up stuff like that? He just fucking believed her over the court system, the mental health system. Even if he didn't believe the accusations, he was still, again, required to do his job. He is not a judge. Maybe he thinks he's one. Maybe he has delusions of grandeur and he thinks he's a fucking judge and doctor. Did I have a stroke, by the way? Because it seems like he went into far more detail than what I saw in the body cam footage. Did they not release the entire body cam footage? Because I do not remember Lori, Melanie, or Tylee saying anything about taking her in. He's full of shit. Maybe he should be officer full of shit. We have sergeant full of shit and we have officer full of shit. And then he talks about the conclusion of his total fuck up. And here is the page on February 1st at approximately 6:45. I called blank. I was informed Lori Vallow had checked herself into blank and was discharged a few hours later. No further information. When I have had experiences with psychiatric facilities and had to call them, they cannot say anything except you ask for the person and they say, hold on, or I cannot confirm they are at this facility. So I'm suspicious of that unless the way the order is written, that maybe that gives them some sort of right. So here are the Chandler documents, which give us a little more context, and I'll just kind of point some things out. So the first page says on January 30th of 2019, 4:33, Charles called and was like, my wife is fucking nuts. He called to mention that Lori was acting strange and making threats, blah, 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 blah. He was advised of options that included a psychiatric evaluation, community bridges, and a petition to get a mandatory evaluation. So that should have all been in the system for the phone call. So they had that in there too, or they should have had it, unless they had to chisel it out on stone. Then the special incident taken at 0112 the next morning, the synopsis of this that Chandler pulled from the reports is that they received an emergency mental health petition, which is an involuntary petition. They received it on January 30th at 11:38 p.m. Gilbert received the emergency mental health petition, so they fucking had it. Charles reported the inability to contact his children, which again was his priority, not the bank account. What he was trying to do, because you were asking what was going on and what was happening, is he was adding what is called additional evidence that Lori was fruitier than a Fruit Loop. I mean, it says Charles was unable to have contact with his children for the last 2 days. So the next page of this, these are pages, I think it starts on 387 to like 392. Charles claimed that Lori threatened to kill him during the phone call with the bishop. She said she will have him destroyed. The actual threat to kill him was done the day before. She says, I can murder you with my powers. All this stuff that we heard on the body cam footage is pretty consistent with the Chandler documents. And when the officer questioned how Lori would respond in regards to her cognitive ability, Charles believed she would talk normally with him. Right, because people can still do that and be in need of help. So the officer asked if she was on medications. He said no. Charles claimed that while Gabe was listening, Lori said, come take the kids. I don't care what happens to them. Red flag. All of this is a red flag. Even if she didn't say that, even if she was just saying these things to Charles, they should have acted in the interest of the children. That pisses me off to no end, clearly. Anyway, most of this is the same as what we see on the body camera. The I'm sure he means follow-up on-camera contact is made with Gabe, who confirms no direct threat was made other than destroy. That's still a direct, He did make other threats, but Gabe conveniently, I guess, fucking forgot. He further stated, with the names used by Lori, there appeared to be a certain level of disconnect from reality. Okay, then we have the next report, emergency mental health petition taken January 31st at 12:36 p.m. This is when Gilbert met with Lori about a harassment complaint. They were aware of the current mental health order, but elected to let Lori go on her own to CBI. In other words, they neglected their duty. Lori stated Charles had taken Lori's purse. Charles was called and claims of property being taken were discussed for both sides. The decision was made by GPD to convince Lori to take herself to CBI. Lori agreed. Did she? Okay. I don't remember that really happening, but I do remember them very obviously insinuating that she should just get the hell out of this station so they didn't have to deal with it. Melanie stated she would make sure she got there. I'm sure she did. And then this is like out of order. So I don't know why it's out of order, and maybe he was just trying to make notes. I'm gonna guess that it was because Gilbert is so fucking unorganized that he's trying to piece things together. Charles located Lori at the school for JJ and attempted to get GPD to respond to enforce the order, but they didn't. She left prior to their arrival. GPD reported making contact with Charles at a Hyatt hotel, as Charles reported Lori might be at the hotel. GPD expressed concerns for the legitimacy of Charles obtaining the order because he appeared to be more concerned that Lori had taken. Who in their right mind would say, I'm going to go to all this trouble, I'm tired, I'm just getting back from a business trip, and you know what? I'm just going to go say she's crazy so I can get her locked up because of the money thing. That's not why he got the order. They know damn well that's not why he got the order. I guess they don't. I guess they were like, Anyway, GPD expressed concerns for the legitimacy of Charles obtaining the order because he appeared to be more concerned that Lori had taken money out from his business account and he needed to get to the bank to resolve that. GPD did more research, regarding the order by contacting the listed witness, Gabe. The only I find that funny, threat made by Lori was that she was going to destroy Charles. So CBI was contacted by GPD and confirmed Lori had checked in and was released a few hours later. I kind of doubt that, but it could be possible. I do not understand. I will never understand why they didn't contact the physician or the facility and thought, we'll contact the witness, because that's the court's job to talk to the witness. It's not the officer's job. They're not evaluating the order. They have the order. They're supposed to carry it out. They're not judges. They're not courts. They're not doctors. All right. So then this talks about Lori in the lobby and blah, 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 blah. Melanie wanted information. I think said he wanted information about Lori. Melanie asked to get the purse for Lori, but Charles would give it directly. Lori, they talked about Jason being a police officer. Melanie describes how she was going to the house to see Lori after the text messages and encounters Jason, who was visiting Gabe at or near the Vallow residence. I'm sure those two didn't talk at all about what was going on. I'm sure Gabe carried out his bishoply duties and kept his mouth shut. Sarcasm intended. Lori and Melanie talked about the need to replace the phone for Lori. She needed to enter Jason, Thor, and all our people into her new phone. That whole sentence is terrifying. She specifically uses the full name of Jason to the officer. All right, so here's another document. This talks about the research that Detective Coons did on the order, or what he was able to find out. So it says on August 25th, I was assigned to locate the petition and pickup order that Charles had done against Lori on January 30th. Based on previous investigations with this case, I contacted the Gilbert Police Department in an attempt to recover the order they had received. I learned the order had not been preserved and attached to any of their reports. Wow, that is awfully surprising and totally convenient. I talked with Sergeant Gallus, that douchebag, who was the supervisor that had called Gabriel. He stated he had seen the order, but he never kept it. He's a supervisor with a police department. He has a mental health order. He didn't keep it and believed the original officers handling the pickup would have placed it into their records. Well, he had it in his fucking hands, so he just got back and was like, tossed it. This sounds, really, you were holding on to the fucking order in the parking lot, but you were just like, oh, I don't need a paper trail. And furthermore, how many fucking copies of that paperwork do you guys need? You had one the night before. You had one in the parking lot. Charles apparently dropped one off at the station that morning. There's like 3 fucking copies right there, paper copies. Maybe you don't have an electronic system. Is it a message in a bottle? Do you call each other on tin can phones? Seriously. Or is it that the message, the orders, do they self-destruct like we're in Charlie's fucking Angels? The record system did not have the order because they knew that it was involuntary, and they knew, I'm just guessing and speculating. They knew the order was involuntary. They knew they fucked up and they had to get rid of it because they are corrupt. Allegedly. Or the other option is they just don't know what the law is and don't know how to do their fucking job. Allegedly. Sergeant advised that he would attempt to see if he could locate it, but was doubtful. I doubt he attempted anything but to cover his ass. He further advised that he was suspect of the validity of the order since his brief encounter with Charles, where he's fucking police-splaining to Charles and giving him advice and not fucking listening to the guy, was only worried about the thousands of dollars that had been taken from the account. I love this sentence though, because I think he maybe sensed this was bullshit. The money was only one of the issues raised by Charles according to the body-worn cameras, and it was nowhere near mentioned as much as his concerns for JJ and Lori to get her help. He said he needed to get her help and wanted her to get help several more times than he even mentioned money or the truck. I contacted Community Bridges, which was the organization that Charles had gone to for the mental health petition. I was put in contact with their records unit and provided detailed information. The process required 2 people to complete the petition. The petition is reviewed by a medical professional and then either granted or denied. If it is granted, the petition is signed and forwarded to the responsible local agency for service. The local agency is responsible for serving the pickup order and transporting the subject to the CBI facility. He does not say anywhere in this paragraph, and I did not read anywhere in the legislation or anywhere that officers had any sort of discretion or had a responsibility to review it and be part of the decision. Upon arrival at the facility, the person will be screened by a mental health professional and a determination will be made if court-ordered evaluation is needed. I think that's treatment. If a court-ordered evaluation is needed, then the documentation will be completed and sent to the superior courts for the actual order to detain for the 72-hour evaluation. That doesn't sound right to me. I think that's treatment because they can keep you for 72 hours for treatment. That's basically a 5150, not for evaluation. That's 24 hours. So I think what he's talking about is the actual court-ordered treatment because that is inconsistent with the law that I read. The record retention for the petitions is only 6 months and it is purged after that time frame. This is true. The petitions are purged after 6 months, but she should have had an evaluation. And this says in this case where Lori was offered the ability to self-report, there would only be a documented contact screening in her record. Okay, here's the thing. I don't know any hospital, healthcare facility, doctor that just treats people for free. And by that, I mean, I don't know anybody that would perform an evaluation and be like, all right, that's it. Bye now. Yeah, we're good. Just pretend it's the NHS. No, bullshit. If Lori actually had an evaluation, there would be more than just an initial contact. Healthcare is a market-based system in the US. It is an industry, not fucking free. Like, they're just not going to do an evaluation and not bill anybody. In fact, Arizona law 122297 states that adult medical records must be retained for at least 6 years after the date of service, not 6 months. There is absolutely no way that there is no record of Lori Vallow getting a medical evaluation. We do not provide healthcare for free. So no facility is gonna risk their ass and not keep a record. Not gonna happen. The police clearly don't give a shit because they just throw shit away, I guess, left and right. But a medical facility would have a record. Interestingly enough, when I went on the Community Bridges website, I did see a lot of police representation on the board of directors. Not with the Gilbert Police Department, but what I'm saying is there sure are a lot of people from law enforcement on their board of directors. Doesn't necessarily mean anything, just throwing that out there. Okay, so what did we learn today? We learned that police officers should not be acting like they are doctors or mental health professionals. We also learned that Gilbert needs a little training and some accountability because they done fucked up. I sincerely hope these officers were disciplined, or these sergeants. I'm blown away, actually, or was blown away at the backflips these officers did to get out of serving that order, in my opinion. It's like, were you gymnasts? Or do you need a back patch? Dones? Isn't that for back pain? Like muscle relaxers? Anyway, let me know what you guys think. And remember who you are and what you stand for.
I'm really mad about my lip gloss.
about him, not us.
Okay.
Okay? I can't get in touch with my kids. I've got a 6-year-old with special needs.
Right.
At all.
I want her to get help.
Yeah.
She's my wife. I love her to death. I just want to see my boys okay. And this is a sheriff officer. I don't know what she's going to do with them. I don't know if she's going to flee with them. She's going to hurt them. She needs help.
Yeah.
She needs some serious help. I want her to get help. I'm worried about her.